go live, and we're live. Let me make sure we're good on YouTube. Hi everyone, let me know if you can see this okay. We've just had to start another live. Let me see if this is streaming. Okay, we are. It's not vertical, but it should be fine. Okay, hi, hola, familia estelar. Tonight we're joined by an incredibly special guest, especially to me personally. We have Maurice, which is 𝓲𝓻𝓭 today. Many of you may know Mo from his earlier journey as a professional NBA shooter, where he brought focus and discipline, but also heart to the court. But beyond the athlete, what I admire most about Mo is the soul behind this story, whose journey has evolved from this athletic mastery towards this spiritual mastery. And he stepped into his own powerful spiritual mission, one that's rooted in intuition as well as higher consciousness. His ability to be a beautiful channel where his mission just grounds him in the way that he navigates this construct. He has such a heart-centered energy, so I'm super honored to be able to share this space with him tonight. And we're going to tap into starseed messages and the truth about this construct, especially when it comes to your soul here on Earth and why you've incarnated at this time. So, Mo, it's nice to have you here.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the wonderful intro. That was awesome. That was the best description I've ever gotten of myself. So.
No, I held you in such a high regard and highlight that I had to make sure I, tried to do it justice as much as I could. But yeah, is anything you want to open up, anything that I didn't mention when it comes to your upbringing and kind of what's brought you to this moment in the present day? What is the story that has unfolded, and where do you find yourself when it comes to this present time?
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's always a chip away process. Just growing up, I feel like I've always had this strong sense of mentalism and heart. It was always one of those things because I loved martial arts growing up. I just loved the Asian culture. I love Bruce Lee, and so when I saw him as a youngster, like I watched him do like meditation and doing all type of techniques and stuff like that, and I felt his energy. It was something about Bruce Lee's energy that really resonated me as a young child. So I feel like I've always had this this level of, I would say, a certain deal of consciousness when it came to just seeing things differently, and actually, not only just seeing things differently, but performing in that sort of way, just growing up. And I think we all have the same type of stories. As I would say, youngsters who come into this world a little bit more aware of certain things, aware of their surroundings. It can be a bit challenging as a youngster, and but I'm just grateful for the great deal of protection that I'm able to that was bestowed upon me just to get to this stage. From the areas of music, basketball, living life, coming from Detroit. Detroit is a very soulful place, but it was very I would say dangerous. So, just to be able to make it out of Detroit and get to where I'm at now, and all the way here in Southeast Asia to really share my story is it's all a blessing and magical, and it's amazing. I'm grateful every day just to be here, to be able to tell people about my story and provide light for whoever is resonating with me. You feel me?
Yeah. Another question I wanted to ask is, what do you feel like you've been observing recently in your own life or energy field that the collective is also moving through? Especially as because we're entering out of period 9 and we're entering into universal year 1. We're coming out of the year of the snake and we're about to enter into the fire horse. It's a huge shift that's happening. And I know that you've already gone through quite recently your personal year 1 and 2, and you've been able to kind of experience that subjectively as well. So what did that
Yeah.
energy entail? What do you feel like universal year one? Because it's one of the most powerful and pivotal numbers in numerology, right? It's like where you have that reset. It's that masculine essence.
Yeah. It's funny, if we talking about like personal year one, that was actually a big transition year for me as well, because I was living in Vietnam at the time. And I ended up moving from Vietnam to Malaysia. And that was in 2023. So it was definitely like a reset year for me. But
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, I was really just at the end of a certain stage and cycle. But if we're talking about collectively right now, as a witness, I'm like around people now where I get a chance to kind of just pick up on different energy fields and stuff like that. And I would say I'm in a higher vibration because I'm around sports, young people, but I can still feel a great deal of confusion. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that's kind of like just um going through like very depressed stages at this time because they have no they don't understand what's really happening, because
Yeah.
this year was really squeezing us out to be able to let go of all of the things that no longer serve us. And we hear about that so much in the spiritual community about like, oh, let go of the things that no longer serve you. But this is the year for that for sure, because it's like it's completion. We can't take old habits, old belief systems, and old narratives into this new phase. It's just not going to work, especially if you're a person who have any type of idea of what's going on and you have any type of awareness of what's happening in this world. So um, this past year or so, I really embraced it. This was a personal year too for me. So this was a really, the silence was loud this year. So it's like, it was almost like when you go to a certain stage of solitude, it's almost like the universe, it amplifies the level of um solitude, and you feel it and in every sense of the word. But I think we were speaking about it earlier. It's just moving into this personal year three for me, and then a collective 1 year. Um, I believe that my personal purpose is to kind of help and guide people, during that time period, because I guess I've personally been able to go through a 1 year and a 2 year, and now moving to a 3 year, to where I do see myself being a lot more proactive in many ways to help young people to guide them through this next phase, because
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of confusion, but that's what we're here for at this amazing time during this time in life, to be here and be like guides for people that need it. And I'm preparing myself for it, but not to actually do anything, but to actually just be a light. I was I was watching a video the other day, and a lady said something profound. She said that um, this is the time period where it's presence over effort. So the fact that we have a certain awareness about what's going on in this world, we don't necessarily have to do a whole lot of talking. I mean, we just got to show up and be ourselves. This is the greatest time in life to really truly be. We've had moments
Yeah.
in our existence where it's like, okay, we got to do a bunch of stuff, but now we can actually just be. You know what I'm saying? So knowing that being is good enough.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting that too, like flow and not force. And that's what we're being guided
Hmm.
to really do. As you said, it's like the snake is literally being pushed up out of its own skin. And this is like the brand new mark in a cycle collectively that we're moving through. It literally is a cosmic reset where we're heading into a new, fresh frequency. So it's where there's an opportunity to be able to fully step into our full potential, because the old chapter is completing. This is like the beginning of the end that we're sensing right now, and it's time to write a new story. And this one is quite fast entering into the new year as well, with that fight essence. I was talking about it the other day, how we're going from the yin, right, of the snake, to the yang of the external, right? We're going from that earth essence of the snake, the wooden snake, into the fire horse. So that's like external application. It's time to really embody everything it is that we've been cultivating and learning introspectively. So yeah, this is going to definitely push us, I feel like, into collective timelines and new identities for each one of us subjectively. And naturally, that's going to lead us into a new trajectory and a new direction, and just as a result of that. So it definitely feels like
Yeah.
we're starting over as well. Have you felt
Oh
that too
yeah.
in regards to even like new relationships in your life?
Yeah, I've noticed that not only with myself, but with other brothers and sisters out here. It's like it's almost like a humbling period where it's like, even for me, I'm going back to basketball. Like 2 weeks
Mm.
ago, I was not thinking about playing basketball at all. That wasn't even on my mind. I was just on some, just figuring things out and just preparing myself for whatever. But I've noticed people that, like, especially around my age, they're going back to their, I would say, their roots, so to speak. And for me specifically, just being in an environment where it's like I'm around hoops again. So it's kind of like I see where that light is actually going to be a lot more received, just because I pull myself back in the scenario. So it's nothing wrong with going back to the drawing board. And I feel like that's pretty much what this time period is really doing for us, because not only is it helping us to get back to the things that brought us the greatest joy as our childlike self, we coming back into our childlike essence. So right now is the best time for us to bring our childlike self back online. And basketball was something that I did as a child, and I had great success in it. So to actually be in a situation now where I'm helping young people find their way, it's really showing me like, oh snap, it was always about me kind of just getting back to the bread and butter and accepting
Yes,
it. And
that's another thing I was going to ask you, because I feel like it's something that people can apply universally, no matter where in their life. Do you feel like coming back into almost a old world or something that you're familiar with has almost changed your relationship with not even just the sport but the environment? It almost is like I'm trying to figure out a way to articulate it, but it's like you've changed your relationship, but it's because you're coming back at it with the perspective of play. And it's not that the environment has necessarily changed, but it's because you have. So as you're immersed back in that environment, you're able to actually bring forth everything it is that you had learned and step into more of that, you know, explorative, curious essence around what that looks like for you as this version of yourself versus whom you've been,
yeah,
who you're becoming.
no, that's super real, because as an athlete, as a competitor, obviously I still want to get out there and be exactly what I was, I don't know, years ago, but I'm nowhere near the same player as I was. So I had to literally on the fly adjust my role just
Yeah.
based off of just this time of life. So it's like, you got young players. I'm playing with a bunch of guys who's 20, 19 years old, a bunch of young guys. So it's just like, it took me some time to like, okay, how can I provide my expertise in this environment? And it really boiled down to me really just being a mentor, pretty much coaching, encouraging. And I had to kind of get away from the idea of feeling like I have to be the superhero. You know what I'm saying? And because that's what I've always been, playing basketball. You used to get out there producing, and but this ain't what time it is. Now I'm no more big brother. They call me OG. So it's like I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily, it's not my time to shine in that regards. I'm here to let them shine and help them find their way, and be here as a leader, so to speak. So even with me being so disconnected from the game for so long, I still had that competitive edge to where it's like I still wanted to go out there, but I had to really put it's been a real ego death for real, for real. It's almost like this last 2 3 weeks has been huge on the ego death. So
Mhm.
um me taking steps back and just realizing like, oh no, this ain't what that is. This is the time for me to be the young elder, and step
Yeah.
into that wise wisdom role. And what's funny? The universe is making it so much easier for me, because it's like you don't have to go out there and try to score a bunch of points. You literally just
It's,
got to encourage these guys, because I already did it. It's nothing else for me to do in that world
it
besides me just
literally
be here.
reminds me of that saying where they're like, what you resist begins to grow. It's like you could resist, you could go back out there in the court and try to be who it is that you've been, but you've also outgrown that version of self where you're stepping into a role that maybe you once doubted that you were ever going to be, I don't know, not eligible for, but evolve into.
Yeah.
And now it's like you're claiming this new version of yourself in that environment. And it's, yeah, it's beautiful. And what it is that you accept begins to weaken. It's like what it is that you surrender to becomes the reason for your transformation. And I feel like that's what it is
Mm,
that we're going through, not just subjectively, but also collectively, where we're mastering the art of surrender, and is leading to our biggest transformation yet. When we begin to, as you said, right, we begin to flow with the changes instead of resisting. We're kind of just surrendering, and it's finding that ebb and flow.
that's super true. Yeah, surrender is the greatest word, because it's like it's funny because in my mind I'm thinking to myself like I should easily accept this role, but for
Mm.
some odd reason one of the things you said that it stick with me a lot when one day you said it was a tough day for the ego, but it was a great day for the soul.
Yeah.
So I'm still feeling this shit. My ego kind of like, no, bro, what you mean? You 𝓂𝓸𝓻𝓪𝓷𝓻. But my
Yeah.
soul like, you're the mentor 𝓂𝓸𝓻𝓪𝓷. You know what I'm saying? You got to be the leader now. So yeah, that is something that I'm seeing right now. And so it's like it was an obvious test for me. So I see that amongst the world as well. Like with people really just getting to a point where it's like, it's okay to what's what I'm looking for. It's okay to start from scratch, so to speak, from where you at, with the
Yeah,
knowledge and
like you
wisdom that
said,
you have.
go back to the drawing board. Sometimes
Yeah.
that fresh ace or foundation is needed for that identity upgrade to happen. Because the way I see identity shifts and what it is that we're all going through subjectively is we're releasing that sense of self, like you said, with the ego death. And with that
Mm,
sense of self or that identity, there's also attachments to sometimes people that we met as that version of ourselves. Sometimes it's belief
mm,
systems with that version of self. And as we're outgrowing and really we're being called to interrupt those belief systems, we're stepping into a different kind of potential. And we haven't been this potential, we haven't been this version of ourselves before, we haven't allowed ourselves to be. So it really requires, it kind of reminds me of the hollow bone card in the shaman's dream oracle message, where it's like humility is going to be a huge factor right now for you to become that conduit for source and infinite potential to flow through us and move through us and
mm.
allow us to also move others as well in the same way in
Yeah,
which we're being moved.
absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Just we talk about it all the time, just being that pure, clear channel. And that was the main thing for me. Is like it's about you, but it's not really about you no more. It's really
Mhm.
about allowing yourself to be that crystallized vessel for source can do what he needs to do going into this new age, and it's undeniable. So we get a chance to watch and witness the whole entire world terraform itself. And while that's happening, we have an opportunity to have somewhat of a sneak peek of why it's happening and why it has to happen, and what it's going to lead us to for the most part. But at the same time, still being open for the divine unfoldment as it unfolds every
Yeah,
day. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was getting that as well. There was another thing that I was talking to you briefly about in regards to manifestation also becoming extremely fast and rapid, especially as we enter into numerical one. Like 2026, that one vibration, it's again, because it's yang and it's masculine, we're talking about it's very electric. It responds instantly to our intentions and also our focus, where our thoughts, right, our thought forms begin to form very, very quickly, faster now than ever before, especially for those
Mm.
who have awakened. So there's a different level of responsibility around what our intention is, what is almost what's the word? What is driving us right now? Are we being driven by ego, or are we being driven by, the soul leading us in the flesh, which requires that surrender, even to whom it is that we've been or who we believe ourselves to be?
Yeah, that is so
Talking
true.
about a
And
good
then
point.
you
What did
move
you
to a horse
say?
here.
Yeah, sorry,
Hmm?
you said something when I mentioned it before. What did you say? And I was like, that's a beautiful way to articulate it.
Are you talking
Do
about
you
going back to the
remember?
drawing board?
No, no, when we spoke about things manifesting, I think you said like conscious, something to do with
Oh, energetic responsibility.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, you know
continue.
what? And that's just where we at this point. I feel like we've had enough lifetimes to where this point was like, okay, now we have Christ consciousness. Now be Christ consciousness and really operate in it. Don't matter what environment you in. It don't matter what environment. As long as you can maintain your level of consciousness and awareness, you're literally making a difference in whatever environment you're in, because that ripple effect happens very fast. It's like you said, because the thought forms are forming very fast. So it's like we had so much training up until this point to realize how important it is for us to, for one, realize what thoughts are ours and what's not.
Yeah,
Two, get to a point where you only entertain the thoughts that are of good use for yourself and the environment. So there's really no passive nothing at this point. Like I was saying earlier, you got to be literally energetically proactive in regards to how you view people and view others. Is like, sometimes even if you're in an environment where some people might not like you, but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you have to treat that person the way that they may treat you. So by us
Yeah.
knowing better, we could still be like, all right, shit, I mean, I get it. I understand why you feel this certain way. But in the end,
Mm.
I understand that me perpetuating that energy is only going to do exactly what it is, perpetuate and create a thought form, and then it's going to manifest itself. Instead of me shifting, like you say a lot, it's better to be misunderstood than it's better to understand than to be misunderstood. So
Yeah.
that's the responsibility that it takes.
I was just getting a message as you were saying that, because there was a reading that I just did and it came through so interestingly, because I didn't even necessarily want to touch on the energy, but it was very much that identity rebirth. And there was also an example that I was just getting when you were speaking around uh, certain belief systems that we've had. We've attracted certain individuals in our life, right? That nucleus of a family, based upon on a cellular level what those belief systems that we've inherited ancestrally, right? And we've attracted in a certain group of people. We've attracted in certain, let's just say, even karmic contracts based upon those unhealed wounds. And when we begin to integrate that, and the example that was coming through was even like with religion. So let's just say someone has had like an identity rebirth of some kind, and they're maybe outgrowing old ways or outdated ways of seeing the world, maybe when it comes to their philosophical views. So let's just say they found themselves in the church and they're suddenly beginning to kind of question if that's something that they still believe, if that's a mold that they still want to take on. And as they begin to slowly reinforce a different way of being, that ambition, and it can happen in any area of life, begins to sometimes intimidate those around them, because it forces them to question the status quo, or question something
Yeah.
outside of their comfort zone, right? To kind of confront something within themselves, because you're now representing something that a little bit like unorthodox or a little bit eccentric or out of the box. And that box is invented by people who are afraid oftentimes. That's why they say it's the right thing to do. I don't want you to stretch too far beyond what it is that I've known you as when it comes to our point of reference.
Yeah.
Because wait, you're changing from who I knew you as when we first came into alignment. That change is making me uncomfortable, because I'm not ready to also mirror that change back to you. So there's that frequency gap that begins to happen, but simultaneously
Oh.
also called in towards a new network of a family based upon those healed and integrated wounds. And as you said, like,
Mm.
what you think you need from another person, maybe it's, oh, I want this person to understand me. You're able to understand yourself. Maybe you want this person to accept you or hold space for you. No, you're able to hold space and accept yourself, and also hold space for the other person, because they're also going through what's needed at that stage of their evolution, even if it's resisting the inevitability of the path of evolution in which we're all moving through.
Mm.
And that's a message that I
Wow.
was getting from that, because your
That's a
ambition
great
can,
point.
it can any relationships that can be intimidated by our ambition are going to fracture when it comes to that old version of ourselves if we've outgrown it. And it's actually a great sign that you are changing. And yeah, I was getting that message around it.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a great point. And to hit on everything that you just said, and just to kind of piggyback, like I tapped in on 𝓪𝓻𝓻 like 2014, and which one thing that she spoke about that always stood up to me when she just talked about the earth splitting,
Mm,
and how eventually we were going to get to this point in time where certain vibrations are not going to literally be able to live in the same plane of existence. Bashar talks about it as well, and they talk about the new earth, new heaven, new earth. So it's just like,
mm,
honestly, everything you just described sounds exactly what we're moving into, because I don't deal with too many people that's not necessarily on a certain vibrational frequency.
yeah.
Not in regards to like them knowing all the information, but there's a certain heart space that people are in to
Hmm.
where I resonate with. They might not know nothing about metaphysics or any of this stuff, but they still operate from a heart space. And that right there is 100% separating and creating this divide in the
Yeah.
vibration on the planet.
You know what I was just thinking when you said that 5D, I was counting the chakras, right? You have the root one, 2 is the sacral, 3 is the solar. And then I'm thinking like 4th D and 5th D is what, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You begin to look at life through the lens of the soul, but you can only do that once you access the heart space. You can only access your
Yeah.
faculties and upper dantian once you tune into your interconnectedness to all things. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
And that's what
continue.
we're
I was
moving
just
into.
thinking about that. Yeah.
It's amazing because we're going to a horse year, which would be considered more of a say masculine year, horsepower. You know, you got Ford motors built for it, tough. Um, you know, quick decisions. You got to be super mentally agile. But it's funny. I believe that the most success is going to come from the heart space moving forward, where the
Yeah.
heart, you know, the mind is 100% this masculine horse mentalism, get to it, stoic, you know, but to manifest it now is 100% from the heart space, and that really boils down to just being like seriously just being a heart-centered person and getting back to that middle ground, because that's exactly where that's the portal, the heart.
Mm.
And the, you know, I would say the lower forces of this world, you know, I would say they attack the heart just as much as they attack the mind through, you
Yeah.
know, just betrayal, deception, divorce, all type. I mean, just some of the things. Think about it. Like they were like, oh, well, they're trying to attack the mind. I'm like, I feel like they're trying to attack the heart, because even in Egyptian Egyptian myths, it talks about being your heart being light as a feather.
Mm.
So why, if they were to attack anything, it would have to be disappointment and heartache and pain and this, that, and the other. So it's just like if we can collectively get to a point where we start living from our heart space again, the illusion itself will drop, and then the mind will, you know, will work accordingly. You know, so for me, that heart space is everything, and the mind is great, but that has to follow the heart. That's why they always used to say follow your heart, and
Mm.
that's where we at now. And I just believe that's the vibration, and that's where you radiate from. And you know,
Mm.
those who operate from their heart space, they're gonna find themselves shifting a lot more gracefully.
Yeah, grace. That is so good. That heart space energy that you tapped into just there. It reminds me of resentment is like, you know, drinking a poison and hoping that it kills your enemies. That resentment is a low octave, right? Those low frequencies of judgment. It weighs your heart down. That's what they mean. Is your heart as light as a feather, right? The feather represents
Right.
truth. The ostrich feather of Matt, and that's what's going to be weighed out, and that's what numerical 9 has been teaching us, especially as a life path 9, you know. And next year I've got my personal year 9. It's
Yeah.
literally about visiting the human condition, seeing life through the lens of the soul, because we've spoken a lot about this. I think in even like last year, I feel like we were speaking about this, how we can have disembodied souls, and many souls who aren't able to actually depart from this experience because they have so much unfinished business because of all the entanglements they've created from hatred,
Mm.
resentment, or judgment. And with that mediumship energy we were tuning into with our conversation, it was very much around, are you, how earthbound are you, how entangled within this illusion are you, and can you turn your energy back into that centripetal state of being where you focus on, you are the light turning back in on itself, and that's how you
Mm.
navigate higher dimensions, right? Even when it comes to dream space, that's why they say don't go to bed angry, right? Otherwise that's
Mm.
those are the dimensional timelines that you go on to access in
Right.
your lives.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. My mom used to always say that. Don't go to bed angry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that, yeah, you're
I know I know she went to bed mad at me plenty nights, but
yeah, it's still, there's yeah, say as I do and not, oh wait, was it the saying, say as I do as I say and not as I do, or something like that.
yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. That's crazy. Man, I'm gonna keep some real shit real quick. So I had a situation out here where I just um for a moment I didn't feel like I was receiving love and from
Mm,
a group of people. I just kind of felt like, dang. And I remember I was in a taxi yesterday. I was driving and I was riding and stuff. As I was acknowledging how I felt about these people and their scenarios, this was actually a couple of days ago. I noticed my heart started kind of like had like heartburn. I felt it
Mhm.
in my heart. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh snap, that's actually heartache. I was actually dealing with some heartache in real time because some of the people who I felt like I wanted to get love from, they wasn't really giving it to me.
Mhm.
So I immediately went back into the space. I'm like, oh snap, this is the greatest time for us to hold compassion for ourselves. Like you gotta hold so much compassion for yourself because it's like there's no reason for you not to love yourself. I don't care what the scenario is. You can
Yeah.
always go back and be like, nah, I know I still love you. I still love you. And nothing bad happened, but I just, you could tell when certain people kind of not, they not vibing with you. And in my mind, I'm just like, dang, I'm the type of person I want to get along with everybody. I genuinely do. I
Mm.
represent that. But when I wasn't feeling that, I just felt my heart hurt. And I'm just like, what the heck? I was like, oh, I'm dealing with a heart. But the thing is, that was good that I felt it because I was able to like really, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Feel it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, it's
yeah.
meant for me to feel this way. Let me feel this. And
Mm.
then eventually I got bombarded with so much love that day. Like I ended up going somewhere and meet up with some my homies. He came in town. We ended up going to Hot Pot, ended up having a blast. And it's almost like the universe just showered me so much love because I made a choice in my decision. And that moment to be like, okay, I'm gonna feel this. This don't feel good. But you know what? I still love you. I still hold
Yeah.
compassion for you. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? And then the moment I just made that decision, then my night and my day just ended up being stupendous because I chose to hold compassion for myself and um and that's where we at. Like you gotta have open compassion for yourself, and that's sheesh, that can be difficult too, but it's
Mm.
necessary for sure.
I've got a few things to point out about the scenario that you said because I feel like this is going to resonate with so many people. And how you said, first of all you felt where it was. You're here to feel the full range of human emotion, not to become numb to it, not to try to repress it or suppress it, but you honored that emotion, which is that energy in motion. It's waiting to be alchemized. Your body is an incredibly advanced tool, right? It's a piece of technology and it tells you exactly what it needs if you pay attention. So again, and I've been feeling that in meditations as well when I go into hypnosis, when you feel that disconnection from those around you, when you're locked off from your heart space. And it usually can be linked to resentment or anger, right? In our solar plexus.
Mm.
And when it comes to those energy exchanges, sacral, and how safe we feel, do we feel fear or do we feel love in that moment? And sometimes it is fear of disconnection, but we feel disconnected from those around us when we are not deeply connected with ourselves. Because when we are truly connected
Mm.
with ourselves, we step into that sovereignty where it's like, okay, what you did, alchemize the situation. The way you alchemized it was changing the way that you thought about it, changing the way that you feel about it. Sometimes you change the way that you feel about it to change the way that you think about it as well. They can be reversed. They always work in tandem.
Mhm.
So you change the way that you felt about it first, and then you change the way that you thought about it, which was, okay, even unconsciously you did this. These people, right, these other mirrors of myself, these other extensions of myself, as I'm playing with myself through countless life forms, are giving me the opportunity, even if they're not conscious of it, to give myself and provide myself with something that I thought I needed from them, but I was able actually to supply myself with it. I could fill my body with love in that moment. I could fill my body with
Yeah.
connection. And then again, sometimes you see that there can be a paradox, and love is multidimensional because sometimes that looks like boundaries up until that point moving on. And that's something that we need to be able to kind of discern, where unconditional love is saying, okay, I unconditionally accept myself as I am in this moment. And I also unconditionally accept these other individuals, right? These other organisms of consciousness also on their own journey of evolution, and I'm not here to change them. I'm not here to impart anything on them. I'm here to see them as I am and change the way that I navigate the situation and be
Mhm.
at that neutral point. And that was alchemy at work, in that moment.
Yeah.
You felt lack, so you
That's
gave yourself
real.
wholeness, and you can give it to yourself all the time, right? Your connection with source,
Yeah.
anytime you can fill your body with safety, whatever you need, unconditional love, compassion, because if that compassion does not include yourself, it's not complete. You didn't need that from the external. And when our emotions
Right.
are dependent upon what someone does or what they don't do or what they say or the things that they don't say, right, then we literally hold a parasitic belief system within ourselves. We have this remote and we're handing it to the external. It's saying, I can't control my emotions, I can't control my mind. And so this
Right.
exchange that I'm merely interacting with within this matrix is governing my internal state. It's not my internal state of harmony that's governing the way that I think and feel and navigate these, these partnerships or dynamics.
Absolutely. And I couldn't have said it better because the moment I made the shifts, it's almost like the next day, the whole environment shifted. I'm just like, look at this. I'm like, look at this shit right here, because it all boils down to the idea is like not having expectations for nobody else outside of yourself. And once we let go of expectations from others and how they supposed to be this, oh man, you give yourself so much peace. And it always goes back to auto-correcting and having that conscious agility to be able to make discernment choices based on what you can give yourself versus, expectations from others. It's like, you don't know. Everybody is literally living out their own reality. Obviously, we are all one. We all are connected to the network of source. But everybody is viewing this whole reality in their own way, So it's like everybody has their own universe. So to have expectations from other people in regards to how they should treat us or how they should move in our world is unfair.
Exactly.
And it's best that we.
Yeah. Sorry, because when you said that, I'm like, expectations, then you're holding conditions on somebody. You expect to be disappointed if you're holding expectations, because it's actually coming from a selfish place of the love of power versus the power of love. The ego loves power, right? It loves to think, okay, I'm going to set expectations upon what someone does or does not do. Well, that's you actually not operating from unconditional love or unconditional acceptance. Instead, our ego can kind of distort how we see the situation, right? And it can be us saying, okay, I'm actually only going to feel harmony when you do this thing. And when you don't do that thing, it's going to interrupt my state of being. So what I'm doing is actually putting conditions on the situation. This is conditional love, That's what the ego can often do when we begin to compartmentalize. So yeah, that was a really good point.
Yeah, and like you said, once you start putting conditions on it, you're playing into the whole idea of you're not even allowing yourself to be fully useful for source, because source definitely represents unconditional. And I have to catch myself with that all the time when it comes to certain things. I'm like, oh yeah, this, I like this, but it got to be like this, unless this. I'm like, man, I got to stop doing that and receive love in all forms, no matter what no matter how it comes. It's just like I just receive it all at this point, because love is love, and being able to receive it is one of the greatest things you can do. But like we just said earlier, just being able to just really love yourself and really stay tapped in with the idea of like that's something that you can control. And for me, I'm like, oh, I guess I don't know. I really found out I guess I was a control freak. I didn't realize how much of a control freak I was until like this year. And it's not like I try to control others. I don't have a control complex towards other people, but I found myself not being as comfortable in certain scenarios unless it was a certain way.
Yeah, it brings the illusion of safety to the ego. Yeah, it brings it,
and I
and
was
it's so
thinking like how is it that I've made so many bold choices in my life. I've made so many leaps of faith. I've made choices that will scare people to this day. And somehow I still had this old idea of wanting to control things. So it's just kind of like, or I like controlled environments. I like certain things to be a certain way. I don't know if that's just me being OCD. I don't know, but I'm letting go of that, and I feel like my life is getting better because I'm starting to like really just operate in that space of flowing upstream. Because everything we spoke about it earlier, everything always works out the way it's supposed to. So it's like, why would I care so much about how it happens, when it happened, or where it happens?
I feel like that's a good theme that we're already on when it comes to control, because we're talking about the shadow side of the ego, and that's very much shadow side of just universal year one. It has the higher expression, and then it also has the lower expression, just like everything in this story. And I feel like impulsiveness can be one of them when we talk about shadow sides of the masculine, also like ego-driven choices, right? That give us the illusion of safety, sometimes through familiarity or wanting to even control the how it happens or the when it happens, instead of mastering the art of surrender, which Universal 9 year has taught us all, in order for us to just focus on our why we want something, the where we want something to go, and that being the intention that grounds us. Because we were speaking about this, I feel like a few months ago, where we said when you're 100% certain on your mission and what it is you're doing here, nothing else should really interrupt you or should even take you outside
Mm,
of that connection that you have to yourself. And it feels like it's a
that's
connection that you
real.
have to something else, but it's something that you feel so deeply connected to because you recognize it as consciousness, which is also
Yeah.
you. So also like energetic attachments sometimes that can come through, belief systems that have been holding us back, or maybe cycles of even self-sabotage that we no longer resonate with. This is the ultimate like fresh clean slate that we're being given in universal year one to apply everything that we've
Yeah.
learned and really be able to drive us moving forward. And also like fear of the unknown can be the shadow of that too. Even like us feeling overwhelmed by the unknown and maybe even isolated too, because that one is like it's the appearance or the illusion of like it is alone, but when harnessed correctly it becomes that pure energy of creation, and we begin to create from that place of purity for ourselves as well.
Yeah. Yep. And that's right. And that's the purity of it. Sometimes I feel like, our angels, our higher self, our spirit family, the Galactic Federation, they get off on us being surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
The,
It's like
the
you
element of
wanted to
surprise.
surprise yourself. That's why I'm like, never, don't. Why are you trying to spoil your own surprise party? The quantum field,
Uh,
the unknown, is literally where the magic happens. The electron
right.
disappears and then it reappears. In appearance like spontaneously. We don't
Yeah.
know what happens on the journey from point A to point B. That's the whole point of the illusion of separation. We get to experience not having something
Yeah.
just for the joy of having it. And I feel like I spoke about this in a reading a few weeks ago where I was like, yeah, have you ever like heard a song and you sometimes wish that you could unhear the song just for the experience of listening to it again for the first time, or like you want to unwatch a
Uh,
movie just to watch it as if for the first time. But I feel like we're
yeah.
getting wiser and wiser where we have experienced it and there's that memory, right? That gut feeling is a memory from our future self. And we're picking up almost like what the oversoul has left in regards to, hidden Easter eggs or treasures along our path.
Mm,
Like we didn't see that person coming that we were gonna meet or that opportunity.
right.
And I think that's
Yeah.
and that's like synchronicities that begin to put us into alignment. Synchronicities won't be something that excite us to this degree within our human experience. It's where,
Hmm.
yeah, it leads to timeline acceleration when you can come at it from that curious, adventurous, explorative, again, childlike essence. You've really stepped into the 5D and heaven on earth because that is your state of consciousness. You're in a state of receptivity and allowing yourself to lean into the element of surprise. And that's when the unknown
Yeah.
becomes more of a friend, instead of something that's just like a scary concept. It's something that you can lean into and put your trust in a higher power that exists within you to guide you.
Yeah. One thing that helps me with this whole idea is like I'm open for the greatest possible outcome.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
say that often, and that's a tool for you guys to take with you as well. Just instead of trying to determine everything, because even in the Bible talks about take no thought, and I get that.
Mm.
So what it means is being able to, shit, what we always say, let go and let God. So uh,
Yeah.
allow for the greatest possible outcome. Like, because even with our limited understanding, Bashar talks about the idea of only thing that we understand is what's happening and what's happened.
Yeah.
But once we allow ourselves to get into the state of I'm open for the. I hope this greater than I can even expect it. I want this to be greater than I expected. So it's like being on that type of time gives you the opportunity to be a lot more flexible within the quantum field. You're not shutting yourself down from the many opportunities that how certain things can come to you, whether it be knowledge, wisdom, whether it be opportunities, romance, whatever it is. Just being 100% open minded, well, having an open heart for it to happen in the greatest ways possible. Because in the end, this is still the soul journey. The soul wants to experience it in a way that sometimes beyond our own realm of understanding and our human minds. So it's 100% better for us to just go ahead and just allow for the greatest possible outcomes to happen instead of just feeling like it should happen this way. And that's the ego. Ego is like, oh, it's supposed to happen. You know what I stopped doing too? I stopped calling things delays because it's like, who am I to say if something is a delay?
Divine timing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Never
it's divine time. It's like, oh yeah, well, all my stuff is delayed. Like, who said? Like, what do you mean it's delayed? Like, is there a certain schedule that you already? Oh, it was supposed to happen yesterday. It's like, no,
no,
it's gonna happen when it's supposed to. It's gonna happen how it's
speed of
supposed
alignment.
to, and the
I
divine.
like to call it,
Yeah, you feel me?
yeah.
That
That's
ego's a
exciting.
mud sometimes. Like, what you mean? I'm supposed to be rich right now. I'm supposed to have all the, and then hire yourself. Like, all right, yeah. Here's
That's
the
why
delay. Then you want.
joy is found in the journey. Can you enjoy the scenery
Yeah.
on your way there? And your worth doesn't lie upon when you accomplish that goal. You are just as worthy. And I was speaking about this earlier. It's like the caterpillar inside of that cocoon there before he even
Yeah.
bursts into this beautiful butterfly. His that infinite potential was still within his DNA. It's like he wasn't any more worthy when he was a butterfly than he was a caterpillar. That was still the inevitability
Mm,
of his journey, of his metamorphosis. And I feel like that's what we're all
facts.
going through. Like within the seed lies the dormant DNA, which is infinite potential, something that lies dormant within
Mm,
many of us that's actually being activated this year. That's going to lead to those sudden reactivation of those dormant abilities that we've been disconnected from in many ways. This is the year where we're going to have, well, hopefully this year you've already gained like higher clarity on what your purpose is, and now you're going to be taking actions in the physical to actually support that vision as well. And this is like a shift for a lot of us that's happening when it comes to our soul mission. That's what this nodal axis with the North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo has been about. Are we going to follow these breadcrumbs? Because the universe and our oversoul is basically sending us on all these different kind of side quests where we attain, when we say yes to the side quest, the thing that we didn't expect, we attain information,
mm.
we meet people, we recover objects that we wouldn't
Oh
have
man.
otherwise. And we have to release that South Node Virgo essence, right? Which is like the ego, the one that loves control. It loves to know all the like smaller and finer details of everything. But universe, I want to know what I'm gonna find on that path. That's not how work, right? That's not how the quantum works. That's where we block
Mm-mm.
ourselves, as Shia said earlier, from our own blessings. Like the ego can literally get in our own way. But as a multidimensional being, how can we begin to utilize this vessel and utilize this vehicle, which is the ego itself, as a vessel of possibility? How can we begin to train ourselves to observe that chattering mind and find harmony in that voice that's always going to be coexisting? That fear is always going to be
Mm.
present, but can we become greater than the mind? Can we become greater than the emotional
Right.
body? And that's how we begin to level up as a quantum being. We begin to hold space for maybe that fearful aspect of ourselves and almost guide our own wounded inner child, and we become our own like kind of parental role for ourselves.
Yeah, and that's real. And absolutely. And it kind of goes back to the idea where it's just like sometimes you just gotta go. You just gotta
Mm,
go and just see what happens along the way. It's like I was saying earlier, it's like I was moving so at the point where it's like everything. I feel like everything has to be right, and that's not the way. That's not the way to the highest timeline. We just got to be spontaneous. And like I said,
mm.
like when you were a kid, you already looking forward to going to Disney World.
Yeah.
The trip there. You oh man, what am I wear the day of? And
Yeah.
then I remember getting to these places and being not as excited as I thought I was gonna be when I
Yeah.
finally got it.
Yeah.
Ain't that
Yeah.
something?
It's like a
You
it's like a
finally get
kid on
something, it's
Christmas
like,
morning, like the night before. It's like you can't sleep. It's that type of
what?
energy. And sometimes you open the
Oh
present.
man, yeah. I'm
unless,
like,
unless you're
dang.
looking at through the lens of the soul, and it's like that kid who unwraps a present. He's like, it's an avocado. It's like you can find the joy in
Oh,
the smallest moments if you.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's crazy though, because but Aaron Lyon said it. He said, don't matter where you get on your journey, there's always going to be something that tug at you. And
Mm,
for us, as souls having this human experience, it's very important for us to know that is because that's where the growth is, being able to kind of find yourself this way, and then do whatever you need to do to get back to that center space. It may
yeah.
take a day, it may take a couple minutes, but every time that we get ourselves back into our natural state of being, we level up. So
Yeah.
there's never a time that we're at a loss. But if you're conscious and aware enough to be like, you know what, all right, my emotional signals are showing me certain things. Okay, what am I holding? Like you said earlier, what belief systems am I holding on to? What am I trying to control? And once you really start to practice and ask yourself these questions, it's so much easier to navigate. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't solve all your problems. You're always going to have, like I said, that tug. You know, but that tug is where the growth is. It has to happen, because if you don't have it, I mean, you just be floating through life as a, I don't know. I think that would literally bypass all the laws of the universe if we didn't have some levels of contrast that we deal with in order for us to, you know, stay maintained. Because it's almost impossible for you to always be up here. You feel
Yeah,
me?
and I was feeling that as well when you were speaking. I was like, okay, yeah, the more neutral that you remain, and the more of the 0 point you can enter back into, because it would take time to train it, right? That lucidity where we can fall asleep and sometimes things can kind of in appearance shake us off course, but not really, because we can
Mm,
bring ourselves back into alignment when we turn our energy back inwards. You know, we can clear our relationship with the matrix. We're like, okay, let's approach this with a new mindset. Let's tune in as a multidimensional being to another octave of myself, right? Which are like different expressions of you. And if you allow yourself to become more fluid in that notion, and less rigid, then you'll be able to actually tune into a higher expression. When it comes to the same circumstance, it's like you're looking at it from a new perspective completely, like a new filter of being able to view the situation. And that's how I was seeing it. And the more contrast we're observe and not absorb when it comes to those around us, but also within ourselves, because we don't have to believe everything that the lower expression or lower octave of ourselves says as well. When it comes to, oh, you can't do that thing, or that's not going to work out, or you don't have the means to do so. What do you mean, right? That's often that South Node Virgo, the self-critic, even the critic of others. And that North Node in Pisces is about compassion for ourselves in this journey. And it's like, okay, I may have that fear, but let's just hold space for that version of self. I'm going to tune in, clear my relationship with the matrix, come back to the heart space, and see this from a different perspective. I want myself to win. I am everything, and everything is me.
yeah.
So the opportunity that I don't see coming, that I can feel coming my way, that is another that's consciousness playing with itself, you know. Then we tune into
Mm,
more of that flow state, which is what Pisces wants to
that's
do, right?
real.
With the fish. So yeah,
That's
it's like
super
the
real.
next 9-year cycle that we're entering into as well, you know, just from the one. And this is about planting the seed
Yeah.
whom it is that we're gonna become. You know, it's like that is the embodiment. All right, let's take everything that we've learned. We know that our heart is guiding us to do things in the physical in a way that the mind doesn't fully understand. How well are we going to
Yeah.
honor that on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, that's so true. Like being able to feel these emotions and these emotional signals without being overly consumed by them.
Mm,
Because by being overly consumed by it would assist that we believe this thing is real in the first place. So it's almost
yeah,
like it goes back to the ancient um all ancient scribes and writings always talk about the power of detachment. And
exactly. Yeah. That's what happens when the pendulum swings, right? It's like things come out of harmonic order within ourselves. When we attach too much to something, it completely sends things on in it this imbalanced state of giving and receiving. Often we attach
yeah.
because we have a resistance to releasing something, and we're actually blocking our own blessings, because the longer we hold on to what's not for us, the longer we also postpone the new from coming in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I believe humans, we would do much better if we weren't so emotionally attached to anything. You know what I mean? Not in a sense to where you just completely numb to your circumstances, but love without attachment. You know,
Yeah.
being able to look at the rose without having to take it home, because taking it home requires you to water it and care for it in certain ways, but you can admire it without having to take it out of its habitat. So it's just like,
Mm.
um, and that's something that I've struggled with for years. Is just being emotionally attached to things because you care so much. You know, you want things to
Especially
work out so bad.
people, you know, or even things
Oh my
as
god.
well. It's like you'll be so attached to the idea of, oh no, but I want to bring, and it's that savior complex a lot of the times as well, you know, and it often
Uh,
it kind of highlights and illuminates the version of ourself or octave that believes it needs saving from something when you are a highly
Right.
being, right? It's just there's belief systems that
Yeah.
have kind of distorted the way that you see yourself. And I've heard that quote that
Yeah.
you said around, if you really love a flower, then don't pick it. Otherwise, that's the moment that it dies. Or as you said, like even uproot it and relocate it because it's not to be possessed. The longer we try
Right.
to hold on or relate our sense of value to finite things, we begin to completely forget about our infinite nature. And I feel like that's what Kali
Right.
Yuga was, right? When we talk about the golden age, it's like we fall into that
Yeah.
sometimes materialism, or our focus is drawn away from the immaterial, and we begin to get so immersed within the material realm that we forget,
Yeah.
it's not, there's more finite consequences when we attach, infinite consequences when we attach to finite things.
Yeah. And you know what? And I've been working on balancing that out as well. Just I have a Taurus moon, so it's like Taurus moon is kind of like materialistic, kind of sort of. To
Yeah.
where I've had moments in my life where it's like I have no problems giving up physical things. I done gave up the houses, the cars, anything that I felt that was gonna make me heavy on this journey. But I still like that stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't like it enough for it to hold me back to get to where I needed to get to. So like you said earlier, I feel like, being emotionally attached to people was a little bit more difficult for me. I was able to get rid of the things and stuff like that. But like when it came to like relationships, I don't know. I'm just one of those people where if I really rock with you, like I really do rock with you. So it's just like whenever that's not necessarily being reciprocated any longer, I guess I struggled with that. But I've gotten better over the past 2 years or so when it comes to just being able to just let certain things go and just keep moving forward. But yeah, I do believe that life will become a lot more simple for us, as we just allowed ourselves to just, like you said, like, okay, what they say, if you love something enough, you can let it go.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like what you described as well was like, I feel as if we all go through this in the human experience where the pendulum, we've all experienced attachment and then almost being forced to detach from something, but we don't realize that when we detach from it in that moment, and often it's correlated with a really distinct, potent emotional circumstance where it was our breaking point, where we were like either
Yeah.
forced, like literally was ripped out of our experience. That's when maybe the person ends up leaving us, or that thing ends up
Right.
into someone else's hand, and it's the appearance of the universe removing external things from us when really it's pulling us inwards in that moment, and it's saying, listen, child of light, we're bringing you back into equilibrium, because I feel like when we attach,
Yeah.
we go from over materialistic to you've gone from the other end of the spectrum, like basically releasing everything, it's like you've gone into that
Yeah.
it's just me and this vessel, maybe nothing with the clothes on your back, and then you come into that middle space and you allow yourself to flow, and that's where harmony is, existing, because you're in that natural state of abundance. You're in that natural state of,
Right.
I'm not afraid to release this thing because I know I'm going to receive something else. And that's how you come into the rhythm of the universe with that feminine and masculine energy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I know you've seen the meme where they had a little girl, she's holding the little teddy bear, and her mom is holding a big ass teddy bear, but she's trying to give her like, yo, give me that one. But the little kid didn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mama got the big bear, you know what I mean? Trying to give her, but the little girl like, I don't know. But it's like if she had to let that go, she would have got even a bigger stuffed animal. So it really does. We just got to get back to the point where we trust Source again and realize that Source wants to experience the greatest possible experience through us.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to trust because so many people have been through so much trauma. People have been in scenarios where it was like, hey, I was left out in the cold at times. And so I believe that the universe, Source, Creator holds a great deal of compassion for people who may struggle to trust a little bit because it's like, dang, man, I've been through some shit.
Yeah.
But the universe is calling us to 100% trust because it's always going to go back down to trust. Like we can talk about philosophies all day, but it's like can you really trust, which is the real superpower, and trust that the greatest possible outcomes are literally formulating for us and
Mm,
adopting that mind frame. And that's the mind frame that I just continue to try to polish every day and just remind myself of, because in the end, I know source want to experience itself in the most amazing ways through me. So
mm,
I'm going to open myself up for that. And I believe everybody can do that, especially
yeah,
once you heal yourself, forgive, let go, have understanding why some of the trauma happened in the first place, right?
yeah,
To transmute it. Because without shit, without transgressions, there's no transformation. So you have to have these things in this reality in order for us to become who we truly are in the first place.
yeah, yeah, exactly. What are practices that you use or practical embodiment in a circumstance? Would you be able to give maybe an example that people are able to kind of practically apply? Maybe if they've got worked up about a situation or they're having trouble kind of trusting themselves in pursuing that goal, and there's been a belief system that they hold within them that's been holding them back, maybe where they've been afraid of their own power, or
Uh,
they don't know how to harness that power.
yeah. We talk a lot about thought forms and how thought forms are created by our own personal beliefs and how we empower them. So there's a thing called servitors, which is basically a thought form. You know, you have egregores. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, egregores or or servitors. Servitors are basically thought forms that we create that can literally work for us. So I have a servitor in a thought form called "Everything works out for me prosperously and abundantly," and I say that all the time. And I've powered it up so much to a point where everything works out for me prosperously and abundantly.
Yeah,
So for me, and to you and whoever else is listening, go ahead and just write it down. Write down a thought form, whether it's a phrase, and empower it, and allow that to be the thought form that works out for you. Because remember, they say that everything that you believe becomes true in the first place. So it's like, if you can create a thought form for things to work out for you in your favor, create that thought form so that no matter what you're going through, you can always rely on that energetic servitor to always make sure things work out for you prosperously and abundantly. You can say it however you want.
and I feel like with the thought form as well, something that will amplify that energy is the thought is formed through the emotion and also the mind. So there has to be that, but you're a bioelectrical being, which means it has to be highly conducive, right? You have to put a positive
Yeah.
charge into that, and the way that you can do that emotionally is maybe either getting yourself in that state of gratitude, maybe even looking back at your past at points of reference. And I'm sure everyone has something along some stage of their journey where there was
Yeah.
something that you wanted so bad, and maybe in appearance at the time it seemed like it didn't work out, when it was a blessing in disguise, or something better came in. And sometimes those points of reference where it's like, oh no, everything does work out for me, right? In what do you say, in abundance and prosperity,
Prosperously and abundantly.
prosperously and abundantly. It's like, oh, things
Yeah.
actually have worked out in that way. And then that becomes not just a positive affirmation that you say, but something that you truly believe.
Mm,
Because life is a
yeah.
projection of your own subconscious core belief systems. Do you truly believe that? And how can you put yourself
Right.
in a state of not even just a belief system at that stage, but it's a state of knowing. You are here having a human experience. This is a conscious win for you to navigate for the soul's journey, and the soul is experiencing growth through this physical vessel. Can you see yourself as a spiritual being having a human experience? I believe when you put yourself in
Yeah.
those altered states of consciousness and you come back to yourself and you come back online, then you'll have a completely different way of relating to the circumstance, or that person or that thing. You'll see the lesson behind it.
Yeah. And like you said, you charge it up. You
Yeah,
charge it
exactly.
up, and the more and more you're confident, the more, you feel emotionally connected to that thought form, because
Yeah,
guess what? People are doing it unconsciously already. You might as well be
exactly.
conscious of what you're putting out there and then, have it work in your favor. And that's the alchemy itself.
I feel like that's what I was thinking about as well, where um what I've been observing in my own field, and then also collectively, is that literally everything is speeding up, where timelines are shifting quicker, and because of that, manifestation is happening faster now than ever before. And this is
Yeah.
beautiful, but it also comes with that deeper level of responsibility. When that energy accelerates, our subconscious manifestations also become just as powerful as our conscious ones. So there is that thought force, and our thoughts that we repeat, it begins to reinforce that thought form, right? Just like a synapse in the
Yeah.
brain, it begins to completely become almost like more conducive and highly charged. When you do take action towards that thing, it collapses even quicker because it's got that weight, it's got that charge, right? Because of the like, it's that frequency that you put into it. So
That's so
yeah,
real.
yeah, the emotions that we
That's
hold as
real.
well towards it. But yeah,
It's
it's
funny you say that because,
yeah.
oh my bad, like, cause I was talking to my homie the other day, and I kind of refused to like I said, I was kind of shifting through some different, experiences here, where a couple guys is kind of just little, but you know what I told myself, I'm like, nah, don't talk about it in a negative way, because all you're gonna do is perpetuate that experience. But I found ways to like talk about it from a non-emotional place, but from a place of observation. So therefore, instead of me talking about a situation that appears to be a lot, I would say on the side of on the negative side, um, I spoke about it with a level of maturity, emotional maturity, to where it didn't create more of a scenario. Basically, it didn't give life. I didn't energize that scenario to become negative when I easily could have talked about it from a negative place. I just spoke about it from a real
Changing
place.
the resonance to it.
Yeah, for sure. And then I swear, like the next day, it was just a totally different vibration because I made my shifts and then just and it's an adjustment. But like you're saying, it's really boils down to that. Man, I swear, responsibility is like the word that been coming. I've been doing research, a lot of research in the last 2 days, and that's been coming up a lot. Being energetically responsible moving forward, especially for us individuals who are just aware, just
Yeah,
aware of, just have a level of self-awareness, and we practice pretty much what we preach, and hey, it is what it is. We got to be leaders of the free world, so that comes with a great deal of responsibility and compassion for others, and understanding like, okay, he might not necessarily understand in how he may be affecting the environment, but I get it, so it's easier for me to be cool with people.
yeah, exactly. It's creative accountability. It's because you're a creator of your own reality, whether you're conscious of it or unconscious. And we're at a place now, especially for those of us who embody this, and we don't just know the path, where we actively walk the path on a day-to-day basis, and we sit with
Yeah.
ourselves. We've done that shadow integration. You're being called to no longer you can't afford to even manifest unintentionally anymore, because the consequences are just so great. It's like if you fall
Man.
asleep, you're going to see negative synchronicities now more than ever before. And it's the law of accident. It's the moment where maybe you almost get run over. It's the moment where someone steals something from you. We spoke about that one.
It's
It's the
crazy.
moment where something's going to happen, and it's like, wake up, child, we're trying to shake you awake. You can't afford to be manifesting unconsciously anymore. We're sorry. It's becoming aware that you're building your life brick by brick, and you can be laying that house for yourself consciously or unconsciously. You're doing that choice by choice. Each of your thoughts have a vibration. Your emotion puts literally you as a biological being in that octave, that state of being. You're going to draw in resonant timeline experiences that, like a magnet, literally, that are in resonance with that. You doubt yourself, okay, you're going to have a circumstance be downloaded into a third dimensional experience that's going to reinforce that to you, because reality will reinforce your subconscious core belief systems. So if you believe that you're prosperous and life is always abundant and ever flowing, you better live your life like anything is around the damn corner any given moment in time. It's like that's
Right.
the version of reality that you're going to be experiencing. And as you said, you can't always uphold that, you can't always sustain it. You are here to go through that evolution and to experience the contrast here, but how quickly can you bring yourself back into it? There can be something that feels like it's unfortunate that's happened. What's the lesson? Say, what was I teaching myself through that person or that circumstance? That's how the soul begins to effortlessly glide and flow. As you said, like this graceful way of navigating and maneuvering this experience. That's how you optimize the human experience. So take responsibility for what you're broadcasting. You know, it's like you're a radio station and you have to bring awareness to those subconscious patterns that have been shaping your reality. You know, even things ancestrally, you'll be able to see that theme, how that's been something that's been reinforced, and take responsibility for your own internal, you know, architecture first and foremost. And it's an invitation. You know, it's not, we're not
Powerful.
here fear mongering, but this is it. It's for you to step into your power. It's for you to master your thoughts. That's why I say master your mind, master your emotions, and you will master matter. You're navigating this gameplay experience, but you have higher interdimensional levels of awareness. So choose consciously what your thoughts are. You know, begin to observe what your belief systems are. See what your triggers are, because that's showing you places within you that are not yet free. So yeah, it's responding in real time now, you know? Like things there's no
Nah, you
more.
cooking.
Yeah.
No, you cooking. No, that's the classic cookery right there. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
shit, five-star Michelin. Justice.
yeah, we create the conditions we live in this illusion. So it's just like when we know there's an illusion, why not create the conditions based off of the principles that you just dropped? Everything you said was spot on because that's one thing we do have control of over is the idea that we can, based off of our inner state, we can pretty much create the like. I genuinely believe that I'm golden. Like there's nothing nobody can tell me. I done been in some sticky situations when I'm like, I'm golden, still
Yeah.
golden. So it's a level of confidence, but it's also a level of just certainty, you know, because that's what I choose. I choose to be golden.
Mm,
So that's another thought form that I created. Like I'm golden. Like it don't matter what happens in life. So it's like as long as we give ourselves, once again, going back to what you were saying, we have to give ourselves these things. We can't be on this conscious journey and expect somebody to come along and be like, hey, it happens. But it typically happens after you didn't, you know, recognize that you are the one that's making the conscious choices to be the greatest version of yourself. And
mm,
then the confirmations and the validations come after that. So um man, yeah, you're right though. It's really no time to be kind of like playing around no more. You know, you got to be a master of your energy. You have to be a master of your own emotions, and that comes with practice. And what greater time to begin to practice these things right now? You know, because
mm.
things are going to speed up, and you can choose what side of Earth you choose to live on. If you want to, you know, stay in the realm of, you know, old habits and old belief systems, dated stuff that's really outdated. You know, that's a choice, and
Yeah.
it's okay.
And
That's
I
one
feel
hundred
like
percent.
that's separation. That's like you versus me, or feeling like the world is against you, or you're being
Yeah,
targeted or attacked in any way. It's
yeah.
teaching you that sovereignty, you know. I feel like, and I was seeing that, and someone said in the comments, reality is a distraction. And I was thinking, it kind of is a psychological operation when we talk about the Matrix. By the way, can I just thank Pray7 for your super sticker? You would deeply appreciate it. May your energy that you've sent out to us return back to you tenfold, collapsing into your reality through all forms of abundance. Deep, deep, deep gratitude for you. You've basically sponsored this, this, yeah, this message. But yeah, that, what was I just saying? For yeah, deep gratitude. I was sitting and I was thinking, okay, the matrix literally is this psychological operation that can divert or externalize our life force so much that it begins to drain us. We don't realize how
Mm,
draining these low octave thoughts are because we're basically charging ourselves up with negative, you know, if you think
yeah.
about it, we're charging ourselves up with this negative frequency, and that's why we begin to feel low. And it can happen to the point where you feel so disconnected from yourself that you slowly begin to vibrate out of resonance with the laws of this universe, and you begin to feel so disconnected. You begin to feel unsure in your mission. You know, you begin to feel like, what is even the sense of, you know, what is even the sense of of life in a lot of ways. And you can fall into this sense
Mm,
of nihilism. And one thing I came into alignment with in my journey in Peru was, honestly, like when you are when you see yourself as a creature in this reality and this realm, you can also fall into nihilism unless you have this sense of purpose. Like purpose is actually something that drives us as humans in this realm and also as souls, because we feel more connected to something beyond just the human experience, and we realize that it is
Mm,
part of the human experience to be connected with subtle forces that are constantly surrounding us, but we can doubt ourselves because the human eyes that, or the dimensionally limited avatar's eyes that we've incarnated into, can't see them, but we can see them if we tune into it, right, with our true eyes, with our
yeah.
true eyes of the soul. So when we remember that we are being surrounded constantly by so many other subtle forces, you know, our council of light, our ancestors, then we remember that we're not truly alone, and we are always surrounded, and we are always supported as well, and we are always safe. You know, it's like we're playing with ourselves through countless life forms. And
Mm,
yeah, that's when our dreams begin to become portals for us, you know? It's like our body will begin
mm-hmm.
to feel guided, and we just become more coherent. You know, we have that head and heart coherence. It's like the earth begins speaking directly to us, the universe begins speaking directly to us through everything around us.
Yeah.
We begin to see everything as signs and synchronicities. You can experience a hell on earth because it's a third dimensional realm, or you can experience a heaven on
Mm-hmm.
earth, and we can always shift between it, you know. And sometimes
Yeah.
we're in hell, we don't even realize it, and we're blaming things external. And we can in an instant, if we want to, if we really want to, we can instantly change our the way that we're seeing a situation or the way that we're feeling about it. It's our attachment,
Absolutely.
you know.
That's it. It goes back to that attachment, and that's just man, state of consciousness. It just happens so fast because we're living in the field of vibration. We're living in the field of thought. So even being in certain environments, you can pick up on hellish vibrations to a certain degree because somebody might be having some thoughts that's not necessarily in alignment. That's why they say our thoughts aren't our thoughts. So
Mm,
carrying ourselves with a great deal of discernment, especially in populated environments, is very important for us to really be grounded and knowing what's ours and what's not. So hellish environments, hellish thought forms, and all of that stuff. Like you said, in this reality, that's the crazy part about it. Even if you are one of those people who's just 100% heaven on earth, I'm not mistake. You still, you're still eligible for for the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But you have to be able to recognize, for one, we're not exempt from the
mhm.
the elements of this game,
Yeah.
but we do have every right and free will to, like you said, shift our thoughts and come back into the proper state of thinking.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I remember when we had that conversation, and I was saying like we're never exempt from the universal laws of like the law
Nah.
of resonance, for example. So a truly enlightened being will ask themselves the question, okay, when that unfortunate circumstance happened, what was our vibrational state at the time of that encounter? You know, that's how we can really see
Mm,
what our point of resonance was when we met that person or that event happened. Okay, we understand were we operating from a place of lack or wholeness, because then we'll see
yeah.
what the often storyline is on a soul level. We'll understand why we attracted that and what the lesson was on the other side. Miguel was speaking facts as well in the chat. He said, when we detach ourselves with the physical and understand that all is a product of a higher center, which is your own center, we start to see all change without because it's already change within. And that's exactly it. Reality reconfigures itself and reallocates itself upon your
Mm,
internal state of being. So if you have internal belief
yeah.
systems or blockages, well, you're going to begin to see that energetically projected in the external. There will be the illusion of a block until you begin to alchemize that block within yourself. And how do you alchemize it? You see the origin point of that block. Where did that come from? Did I adopt that maybe from childhood? Was it an event that made me feel that way about myself or my potential? Was it from my parents, right? Is it something ancestrally that I had adopted? Where did that come from? Because one thing's for sure, when you were a soul who had freshly incarnated into this realm, you didn't have any belief systems that were distorting the way that you see yourself. You were just pure infinite potential. You were just a pure creator in this realm. And then as you began to navigate this matrix, especially through the the age of Kali Yuga, it's the final darkest age
Mm,
where there's that spiritual forgetfulness. You had forgotten your cosmic origins. Maybe you fell into materialism or had seen that, you know, as a product of your environment in your upbringing. Maybe there was like social instability and you felt disconnection from those around you. And you fell into the illusion of Maya or had seen that of those around you, right? The illusion of separation. But prior, you were a being of playing in Leela, right? Divine play inside of your own creation.
yeah,
And when you begin to step
right.
into that essence once again, that's why they say the children of, the kingdom of heaven is accessible to like the children of the earth, right? When you
Ah,
tune into, as you said earlier,
yeah, I
that
know what you're saying.
state.
They said to
Thank you, by the
become
way.
like childlike again.
Yeah, childlike
My bad.
again,
It said,
exactly.
yeah, once you become childlike again, you can enter the gates of heaven. And yeah,
Exactly.
and that's funny though. I practice. That's a beautiful thing too. Just practice your childlike self. Like I do everything that I've always done as a child. Right now, music. You know, I watch cartoons. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You know, I had some pizza last night. I mean, I do stuff that like that it gives me joy from my childhood. Like I do almost everything that I like. Art, um, all forms of creative expression. I crack jokes all the time. You know, I don't take myself too serious, but I am serious to a certain degree. But you know, just um, man, I think one thing we always miss sometimes is like this is about we supposed to have fun here.
Yeah, it's literally that quote, humans suffer when they take too seriously what the gods made for fun.
Yeah,
It's that
exactly. That's
quote.
a bar. Like we came here to have fun. Like I love having fun. Like I love it. I
Mm.
remember one time I was at this beach with this one little kid, little boy, and he was just chilling. He was maybe like 3 or 4 years old. He's like, yeah, he's like, what do you like to do? Like, what's your favorite thing to do? And I was like, have fun. He's like, me too. I was like, yeah, man. Thanks, little man. And I never forget that because it's like more than anything in this world I want to do is like really have fun and love having fun. I love
And I
fun.
feel like
You know
with
what I'm
kids
saying?
as well, they have no limits, and that's why they have fun with it because they don't set expectations upon things. They want to do things for the
Right.
experience of it. They're playing for, you know, for the act of play. They're creating in this realm for creation's sake. You know, it's like they remember themselves
Yeah.
as creators in a lot of ways. I feel like kids will test you in that way too, where they'll say like, "Oh, but why? Like, why can't you do that thing? Why do you believe that you can't do that
Yeah.
thing?
But
Convince yourself,
why?
or you allowed someone else to convince you that you can't do when the possibilities are
Right.
endless in your child. I want to be a superstar. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an artist. I want to be, you know, what it is that I felt I came here to do before the world told me otherwise. You know, it's like
Man,
it's like if you don't know yourself, the world will tell you who you are, and your center will not
real
be known.
talk. That's why it's such an internal journey because if we don't give ourselves the goods, we can't depend on the world to do it because the world is gonna
Mm.
give us what it think that, you know, obviously. So um that childlike spirit is everything. And I try to stay tapped in on that as much as I possibly can because it is what it is. It's just like having that innocence and you know, that's why I love working with the young people and stuff like that because they still got that, you know,
Mm.
and I just think moving forward, that's what it is. You know, Age of Aquarius is really about, you know, being tapped in on your heart space and just being like a child again, you know. And
Yeah.
nobody said be childish, but you know, be childlike.
Exactly. I feel like that's what the golden age was more about as well, because when you begin to clear up that dense debris or those belief systems that have been distorting the way that you move through this system, right? If you move through this system contracted, right? If there's a belief system around, oh, I don't want to make friends with the unknown, or I don't want to take that risk because of the unknown variables, you do that thing contracted in a contracted state, right?
Mm,
Where you're still attaching onto an expectation of some kind. But when you release all expectations and it's like, I'm going to do this thing because I love doing this thing and I just want to be in the moment. It's not even necessarily about where doing this thing is going to take me, but it's just me being in a flow state and me connecting with myself. When you
right.
do that thing and you create from that space of love, that energy is just, you know, it's amplified and it's sent out, you know. And I feel like that's what the golden age is. In some ways you become almost a teacher through your own embodiment, you know. It's like you teach from that place of
Mm,
yourself through this system in that way, and you become almost a frequency holder, because subconsciously for others you also hold space for them as you do that.
Right.
You know, you're like, it is safe to do this. You know, they notice something and it feels familiar because it feels like self-trust. It feels like, oh, surrender. And that feels like home. You know, that's what source energy is. It's literally infinite potential. So you become a stabilizer and you hold space for others. And you begin to become an inspiration without even trying, just because you're coming back into that flow state. You know, the fractals that have come offline, that dormant infinite potential still lies within them. There's still infinite potential. It slowly starts to wake up, you know, and you become, again, like I like to say, the exothermic reaction. You become a sun in a way, because you're a conduit for source, where you're transferring that light and that heat and that remembrance to your surroundings.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you so much, Sarah. I just wanted to thank you as well for your generosity. May your energy return back to you tenfold, collapsing into abundance through all forms. Okay, sorry, collapsing into abundance, collapsing into reality through all forms of abundance. I was just thinking about it being streamlined into every avenue of your life. May the higher self bleed into, you know, your relationship with abundance, vitality, family, right, and relationships, work, purpose, career. May the higher self bleed into all avenues of your life.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you as well about Kali Yuga, if you can tell me more about it as well, because I started learning about these times from you when we were speaking like a while ago. When did we first come into alignment? It's been a while, like definitely over a year.
It was definitely over a year ago. I think we linked, I want to say October sometime.
Yeah, something like that.
Year.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kali Yuga, that began, that started to end towards the end of 2023. They say 2024 is when it reached its apex, so to speak. So now we're moving into what they call the Sata Yuga, where it's basically the return of spirituality, spiritual essence, truth, harmony, divine alignment. You know, just they call it 5D, 5 density, age of Atlantis. You know, just the state where we were at the beginning, in terms of just realizing that we are spirit, realizing that we are the light, the children of light. And you know, I would say this is the darkest. We coming out of the dark age, is for the most part.
Yeah.
So that's why so much calamity. That's why so much has to be, you know, exposed. That's why, you know, the systems and everything that we've, you know, we've gotten accustomed to are pretty much breaking down, because they can no longer hold in this new vibration. So the Sata Yuga is a great time for us. It's a return to the golden age, and obviously it's gonna take some time, but ultimately, you know, the Kali Yuga was quite dark, you know, and we can see that, you know, not only just because, you know, we got the media, but you can see it in everyday lives, because most people believe the media, and most people are connected to that sort of grid. So it is a great reset. This is the global reset. The financial systems are going to reset. I'm not an expert in that field, but I do believe that it will become more of a fair system for people. You know, I believe spirituality is, we can see it now. You know, it looks kind of crazy, but more and more people are becoming more spiritually conscious, more and more independent. More and more people are becoming entrepreneurs. More and more people are beginning to see the game for what it is. And you know, that's the beautiful aspects of this whole
I feel like
point in life that we live in.
Part of that was the Great Reset. Miguel said, literally spot on. The House of Cards is collapsing. Such good energy in the chat when it comes to this. It's you know, when we were talking around when Pluto, you know, when it's doing that dance, and I was like, it's the final dance with the devil, when Pluto was in Capricorn and then it went into Aquarius slightly, and we were getting that glimpse of what's to come in this new age, and then it went back into Capricorn for the final lapse, and then back into Aquarius. That's even when we could see all of this stuff, even with Neptune in Pisces, and then Saturn even in Pisces, and then going back into, you know, Aries, which we had a glimpse over the summer. And right now it's stationed direct. Neptune has now stationed, they've both been dancing back and forth. But now Neptune has stationed direct in Pisces. and it's going to enter back into Aries. But even that's a lot to do with like Hollywood and exposing. Pluto was a lot to do with like power play dynamics and things that were hidden that were coming to the light. And we're seeing a lot of things in Hollywood being exposed. We see a lot of
Oh
these
yeah.
themes within the matrix that are, you know, playing out within the solar system and how it kind of governs and influences, you know, each organism of consciousness in this realm. So we're kind of seeing those themes play out where it's okay, yeah, the stars are, you know, aligning and influencing a lot of the energy in which we're experiencing. And if we're unconscious of that, it can feel overwhelming, like it's out of our control. And if we're conscious of what's going on and we can feel the energies running through us and we're like, okay, what is the theme happening this week or this month or this season for me? And we're in tune with that season in which we're moving through as souls as well, which requires us to, you know, surrender and change with the ebbs and flows, then we'll navigate it, you know, gracefully, you know, we'll navigate it through that effortless flow. But sometimes it can feel overwhelming when we fall out of alignment with ourselves and our connection, because our body's
Man,
telling
what?
us what's happening, you know. Our fears are sometimes telling us the themes that are happening as well, not just subjectively, but collectively.
Mm. You know what I noticed too is like it's almost like I feel like source is regathering itself in all forms. Even the ego has the sin. Even the most darkest forms of life is being called to come back into this natural state and natural habitat at this point. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where source is like, all right, we've experienced so much. You know, I'm sure. I mean, overall collective omnipresence is experienced so much to a point where it's like, all right, this is the homecoming.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, all
yeah.
right, yeah, it's like the whole cover. So it's kind of like, all right, bring your ass back home, man. We didn't play it around in that reality for too long. Now it's time for us to get back to who we truly are, you know?
Yeah. I feel like we've spoken about that concept as well, where now it's sending fractals of consciousness or fractals of awareness into the system just to spread that energy through the masses to try to bring as many pieces, right, many fractals back. But then
Yeah.
data that's being, you know, kind of collected and restored and also sent through our experiences as well. So each fractal is
Hmm.
really valuable to, you know, the whole. All subjectives make up the whole anyway. So we're just experiencing ourselves through the illusion of separation.
Right. And you know what I almost feel like too is like, all right, good game. All right, it's time to like let's reset this whole thing because
Yeah, let's come back
y'all
down.
started thinking this shit was real. Y'all, we're supposed to be play fighting, then y'all really start fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Let's start over. And so that's the energy we talked about from the beginning of the live. It's like, okay, it's time to just start over.
yeah, that was like it. That was like the, you know, it's like, all right, it's just time to like clear everything out. Let's go through a reset. Clearly, this
let's
isn't
let's
working.
let's let's, let's
We've
start this
gone
thing
through
over.
this timeline, you know, and it's cool,
It's
everything.
too much going on. Even
I get
source like, oh yeah. Let's bring this thing back to to the center space because she's getting out of hand.
Everyone backstage. Let's go. We're drawing the curtains for a minute. We're gonna have a scenery change, and then we're gonna try this again. Okay, just better
Yeah,
this
yeah.
time.
Let's get some water. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Have a break, time this thing out for a bit because and that's what we feeling, you know. And it's crazy because it's like maybe perhaps people who that's not aware about the shifts and stuff like that, maybe they don't feel it as much. They just kind of just go about it as you know as normal. But you know what I had to discover too? Sometimes when we're so like let's just say active in our spiritual journeys, sometimes we feel like everybody is in on the same type. Sometimes I'll be forgetting that there's people that don't know nothing about any of this.
mm-hmm.
You feel me? And I might be having to remind myself, like, oh, because somehow I created a world where I do pretty much stay tapped in with people who are a little bit more conscious and aware.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm not oblivious to people that's out here, but it just sometimes I be forgetting. Most people don't understand what a Kali Yuga is or a golden age or any of that. I mean, they
Yeah,
don't. Most people might not even know their zodiac sign. So it's kind of like, you know, really holding compassion for people because they might not necessarily care about it. You know, so that's the
what do
reason
you
why
think
we do have to
that
have
is?
people here who care.
What do you feel that is for souls that incarnate into this realm? Do you feel like maybe it's the first kind of lifetimes on Earth, or do you feel like they're in
Mm,
their own stage of evolution and they're still yet to kind of, remember that
yeah,
connection? Because I've seen it happen with people really later on in life where they end up coming online really, really quickly, but it's after like a
yeah,
huge event. And I feel like trauma, or what can be traumatic, is things that we feel like we're disconnected from and we don't fully understand the reason for them on an energetic level. But I feel like those moments of even like death, near death experiences as well, that those are moments where the human condition lifts and you come online. You literally see
yeah.
life through the lens of the soul and you understand this experience from a deeper level. So what do you feel like that is for those who kind of move through maybe this lifetime? Because I'm sure we all have them either in family or friends or
Yeah.
school or people that have been around us that just aren't as uh, connected with themselves in this life. Do you feel like they're kind of going through the initial stages in this lifetime? Because I always tell people not to attach too much of it. Maybe they'll awaken within this lifetime. Maybe they won't within this lifetime, and that's also okay.
Mm.
Sometimes it
Yeah,
is
I believe we have.
conscious decisions that we make.
Yeah,
Yeah. What do you
absolutely. This is a multidimensional experience, so I wouldn't say that is one thing. I do believe that a lot of younger souls are
think?
um, thrilled to be here because they can go through the initial process of developing their souls and growing before they go back into spirit, or it can just be souls that chose to come here to create contrast to give us
That's exactly what I was
the
gonna
the
say.
difference.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
this
so
whole
it could
harmonic
be.
order being sustained.
Yeah, you can't know one thing without knowing the other. So there's some elements to younger souls, and then you might have older souls who just came here just to cause havoc,
Yeah.
so that you can become the greatest version of yourself through that experience. So it's
Mm.
so many different things. I really can't even pinpoint to one thing though. But
Li
uh,
Lioness said, sorry, she
this-
said, "I call them 50 percenters." Like
oh
like you're
word,
yeah, yeah. Like maybe you're half in the experience and maybe half of the unconscious as well. But yeah, I think that's not
yeah,
it's not yet total sovereignty in that way. Sometimes I feel like we're collecting
mm,
in this system because it's all about karma, right? So sometimes we're collecting almost like karmic debt because we want to be able to experience that pendulum
mm,
swinging as well, so that we experience that in the next lifetime, and then we're kind of clearing up. That's what the nodal accesses kind of are, unconsciously or
yeah,
consciously. And then we get to a point where there is no karmic debt owed or karmic credit even due. We're in that place where we're basically tying up loose ends, and that's what numerical 9 is all about as
mm,
well. We're tying up loose ends when it comes to your relationship with this matrix, which is the illusion of separation. Instead, you're living in
right,
this realm through a field, a lens of like unified consciousness, where you recognize
right.
everyone as you and also you as everyone.
That's a
And I think
beautiful way of looking at it.
that's
I think that's one of the best ways you can look at it. Is like, listen, we know this is a game. We understand it. I know why you acting like that, and just really hold that type of love for people because it's like somebody has to be able to carry that type of vibration. You know what I mean? When it comes to us understanding that this is a school for the soul. It's a video game. It's all of these things. It's a stage play. We're all playing roles. We're developing our character. Our souls is using this character in order for us to grow the soul through many experiences. So just understanding that can make the journey a little bit lighter as well. You
yeah.
know.
Um, 5D said, when we speak of contracts, it seems close to redundant because you are aware but not consciously aware of how to fulfill them. What would you say about that?
Mm. I would, what? I would just ask. Sometimes,
Yeah, yeah,
asking,
yeah, yeah.
just ask. Okay, what am I supposed to be learning from this situation? Okay, yeah, exactly. What am I supposed to learn from this situation? How can I shed light on this circumstance? How can I grow in this circumstance? It's all about asking the right questions and knowing that the answers will come when they're supposed to come. They might
Yeah.
come right. They may come right after you ask, but it might show up in, you just got to be paying attention and, realizing that source, spirit, universe is always communicating through many means. It might be something you might overhear somebody say something in a line at the bank. You be like, oh, snap, it's answer my question. You know what I'm saying? So it really boils down to you just asking you shall receive. And if I'm confused about something, I'm like, yo, what's up with it? Like, where we at with it? I really talk to my spirit guy, like, yo,
Mm.
what we on, man? What is this?
And you can
What type
actually,
of time are we on right now? So it's
yeah,
like, you know,
yeah, 100%. Because you need to know: did you attract it from love or did you attract it from fear? Because that's going to tell you if it's something karmic. Then you should be able to actually identify the influence or the patterns that you've seen. Are you attracting the same kind of energy through a different body? That's how you're going to know.
right.
Because karma is about that loop. Free will
Yeah.
and higher octave soul contracts are a little bit different, but they're both for experiential participation. Like you could participate in a soul contract and then come to a place where it's like, okay, I no longer actually want this contract. I want to be able to experience things based for free will, and you can choose to dissolve it. It really can
Damn.
happen that easily, but sometimes we consciously wouldn't enter into a contract had we known the purpose for the fainted encounter in the first place. Like if we were unconscious and we attracted someone from a specific wound that was going to hurt us again and again until we decided to no longer, tolerate or let's just say maybe it was teaching us boundaries, right? And maybe we had poor
Yeah.
boundaries or poor confrontation, and we just be able to, solar plexus, maybe it was that type of wound, harbor onto resentment, and it's not that you were even resenting this other individual, you were actually slowly resenting yourself for not putting up those boundaries. So it's going to depend on almost like the chakra and if that was balance or imbalance. But sometimes it's like you will be blinded until you're able to actually see it from a spiritual lens. That's the way that I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards,
Absolutely.
and sometimes you won't even know at first. Like even if you just know in your soul that it's time to, for example, it's not personal, it's just vibrationally, you're not aligned with someone anymore, and it can come to a point where I was going to say something. Hold on. Sometimes it triggers us to not break us but awaken us, but every encounter is like a chance to learn, it's a chance to grow, and even the most painful circumstances can become valuable teachers because there's always been a part of us that's unaffected by what happened in that circumstance. Really, there's a part of us that's untouched by the things that happen in our space-time continuum journeys, and that is the still observer. It can be the ego. If you're humble enough to kind of learn, then you'll be able to see it through that lens of enlightenment, which is see it through a light being and also recognize another person as that light being too. So it can, it can vary when it comes to the different kind of octave, but you can, for example, maybe even there's different kind of there's a refraction mechanism that can happen where there's certain colors in the color spectrum that we're not able to see from the human eyes, and it connects to more of the emotional data because there's always information behind the emotion. So how does this person make me feel within my body? What arises within that moment? And often it's after the experience that we actually begin to absorb that data, because we've been able to integrate it. We can see it from a higher level of understanding because those emotions aren't clouding our vision anymore. We're able to see it from more of a
Yeah.
neutral point. And finally, then we kind of see it through the lens of the soul where we can process that data. And it's like, okay, this was actually the resonance that drew this individual towards me. And they were a mirrored reflection. Where they soul contract, where they karmic, it's up to you. But each soul contracts, they're all, even with extraterrestrials as well, that was something that was huge for me in ceremony. I was getting all these different kind of beings that were coming, and they were all offering me these different timelines. And I even tuned in, Mo, with your one, as I told you, where they showed me like what was going on with you and everything like that. And I realized when I put myself in the state of the observer, I was all of these other beings. I was
Yeah.
that extraterrestrial, I was this, I was that, I was all these other beings. And from that place of the observer, from that stillness, they all dissolved. So it can be really easy to fall into the illusion of separation and feel overwhelmed by what does this person mean, this character mean when it comes to the story of my life. Instead of focusing on the story that unfolded or even the character itself, we can just focus on the wisdom that we're kind of extracting from that. What are we learning, right? What was the opportunity or invitation for us to learn? And that will be integrated more through time. Even if you don't know what that is yet, sometimes I've been in situations where I'm like, I don't know what it is yet, but I know that there's a lesson in this, and I know I will see it. So when you see it from that perspective, and it's not just it's you versus me, or this person did this, and we begin to, allow that history to kind of, or emotional lens to cloud our intuition, time, all things heal within time. And the thing is, time is not linear, it's spherical, which means that we'll come back to that same circumstance with a deeper level of understanding. Maybe there's like 3 years ago, I thought that this person played a certain role in my life. And then 2 years, 2 years ago, I see, oh my God, they played a completely different role than how I thought, because then it connects to this. And then this other person. And then like 6 months ago, oh my God, they played a completely different role than it was way more important than I thought it was 2 years ago. So that will continue.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we have to allow our perspectives to change. Again, we're shape-shifting, we're multidimensional, so we're supposed to evolve, and our perspectives when it comes to our mission on earth, the part that people played into our stories in our lifetime, that will evolve as we do. Even the work that we do in this realm, it begins to evolve as we evolve as individuals. So it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. And everything you said is true, because when it's all said and done, even if it's not something specifically we're supposed to learn from it, I've learned to understand, did I learn something from it? As long as I have a contract or whatever it is that I'm working with, okay, did I learn something from it? Whatever I learn from it, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can almost guarantee you, if it's something, okay, my bad. I just say, if it's meant for you to learn something else.
I'm saying sometimes it is that simple. Like sometimes you just learn something and that's it. We don't need to make up this big story about that's what the ego likes to do. There was this my soulmate, and I saw our timeline together. You very well did see the infinite potential timelines that are available, but that's just not how it worked out in this lifetime or this lifeline, and that could have been your biggest blessing in disguise. So sometimes it just is that simple. We don't have to overcomplicate things. It will mean whatever the meaning we apply to it is, and that meaning can change over time if we allow it to.
Especially like you said earlier, once we get a chance to look at it from a different perspective, because sometimes we do go through some of the same scenarios to a certain degree, but it's like, okay, it definitely gives you an opportunity to be able to approach it from a higher, well, that's a different perspective. I wouldn't say higher or lower, but just a different perspective, because in the end, that's what we truly are in our essence form. We are all perspectives. We're omnipresent. So if we can actually observe circumstances from a different perspective without being married to any one belief system, that's how we grow and expand. And it goes back into the idea of being neutral. So if we come back to that place of being in a neutral state of being, you don't have to be overly, you don't have to be overly married to any perspective. Therefore, you don't argue with nobody, because in the end, every perspective has its own right to exist.
Exactly. Yeah, that's spot on with what you said. It's like you're experiencing it, and that's one thing that really helps as well. If you put yourself in the shoes of another, often when we realize that person that hurt us, hurt people sometimes, and you can actually extend compassion. Like you will really be free when you see that everything is an act of love or a call for love, and you can respond from that place of love or that place of fear. And true unconditional acceptance is saying, you know what, I'm going to unconditionally accept this person as they are. I understand that they were operating probably in a really hard place. That anger maybe that they had, it's something that they are punishing themselves for. Maybe there's deep resentment or whatever it is that's going on with them. You don't even have to look at it into it too much if you don't want to, but usually there's valuable information there. We will end up saying, okay, you know what, this person, even though they may not deserve it based upon the things that they did in the physical, that person really does need that compassion the most. Like they were obviously in a really low place, even if they're not aware of it, where they're fighting their own demons. And if you can hold space for the shadow that is yet to be integrated within that individual, you're definitely onto something. You will experience so much more peace and harmony with yourself, because you don't need anything from them. How can you expect compassion from an individual that cannot even supply that to themselves just yet? So
that's like, that's almost impossible. And it kind of goes back to the idea of like, 'cause it's the whole thing is all about love. You know what I mean? Because we all really just want love. Like we talked about having fun. We talked about being, all of these things are really just getting back to our true power of love, and and when you can actually, that's just like, that's a great deal of a spiritual, emotional maturity, when somebody can be snapping and going crazy, but you still find a way to be like, I get it.
Yeah, I was just speaking about that earlier, where I was saying that's a beauty of the third dimension. A lot of people say, oh, 3D, but 3D and the lag time that we have here, there is a beauty in it, because you get to consciously, okay, let's just slow down. Let's just say someone's called you a name, okay, or they've just said something like let's just say they've called you out for something that you haven't done, or gaslit you, even better, right? Let's just say someone's gaslit you, they've made you question your reality, okay? Now, instead of just reacting from a triggered place, let's say you have a history of being gaslit, perhaps, well, you have that opportunity to actually pause before you choose to consciously respond and engage with the matrix, right? Engage in the illusion of separation. You can pause. You can actually time travel with the speed of thought, okay, into the future momentarily. And you'll get very quick at this the more that you practice it. And you can say, how would my higher self choose to respond to this situation? You can clap back. You can, surf through the illusion of time and foresee the sequence of events that would unfold. Do you feel like that timeline is highly conducive? Do you feel like it's parasitic? Do you feel like it's supporting your higher soul's evolution? Or can you say, what is the invitation to do in this moment in time? Okay, let's actually respond instead of react, right? Let's consciously create in this realm. I'm going to choose maybe not to respond at all. Maybe that's the best response I can give in the situation, right? Maybe I'm going to choose to just say, like Mo said, okay, from that place. And then you're no longer feeding into that timeline. Again, where your attention goes, your attention is so crucial. And again, this psychological operation, it's designed to divert our attention outwardly, to fall deeper and deeper into separation. That's how it's designed. That's how we've created this for us to play in, right? And otherwise it wouldn't, it's supposed to be a little bit, challenging. We're being subtle invitations constantly on a daily basis. So what do we want to choose to do? Okay, what would be the highest response, right? How can you anchor the higher self, and how can you embody that, right? The embodiment is, how do I actually consciously want to choose to respond? That's the cultivation and integration of the divine masculine and feminine. That's how you master matter, because first of all, you've mastered your mind. You've also mastered the way that you now think and feel about the circumstance, your emotions. Now you master the way that you engage consciously, intently, and lucidly with matter, because now you're consciously guiding your life towards your chosen selection of timelines. You'll say, okay, I think this is better aligned with whom I am. That's how you take your power back.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too? Everything you said is spot on. I know you've heard the phrase and be like, "Yo, I'm gonna give you the same energy you give me." And I don't necessarily subscribe to that.
No.
Yeah, I'm giving them the same energy they give me. I'm just like, I would much rather not give them no energy at all than give them the same. If they give them they just say they're giving out bullshit energy. So now I'm going to give out bullshit energy and create more of a ripple effect of negative energy, because what? I want them to feel a certain way. I'm at a point now where it's like, I won't even give them no energy at all, instead of me like stooping to their level to create anything that's out of alignment with the truth of being in a, let's just say in a balanced, optimal state. Because I'm not about to add fuel to the fire.
Exactly.
Although there's times when you got to check people, though. I mean, don't get it twisted. Like, some people need to get checked, but there's ways of doing that as well without having to, make it a dysfunctional situation.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, there's graceful ways to be able to do that. And sometimes when it's so deep in the karmic loop, I'll just observe it and I'll say, it's not going to be me. But I know, based upon the current, see, you can always tell organism of consciousness's state of evolution based upon the part of the brain that they're accessing at that given moment in time. So when you understand that, okay, maybe there's a lower octave or expression of their own fight or flight responses, or the amygdala, then you'll recognize, okay, this person is triggered. You recognize, okay, in the autonomic nervous system, you have this sympathetic nervous system. Literally, the blood floats away and pumps away from the heart. So they're literally in a state of disconnectedness. It represents the disconnect of themselves. How can they even connect with you, or what it is that you're even saying, or even resonate in any way with it, when they're in such a disconnected place from the self? And also the source. The source core becomes extremely weak in that state as well. I wanted to read something from the 𝓼𝓻𝓪𝓷𝓬. I don't know if you heard it. I think it's called the 𝓬𝓻𝓪𝓷𝓬 or something. It was actually an artifact digged up in Mexico, in Tula, and it says winged beings who bring the original knowledge that was it was like coded plates. This is what it said specifically. Like when it was basically in code, and then they decoded it. So it's a map of creation, the 𝓫𝓪𝓻, and it is a testimony that humanity lives inside of a design matrix where geometric codes determine our perception, time, and existence. Winged beings who bring the original knowledge, coded plates that record the engineering of reality. And that's what I was seeing when it comes to reality being engineered. Hybrid figures manipulating energy, symbols of observation and consciousness, a sanctuary with objects connected to the 𝓫𝓪𝓻 basically points to reality is not natural, it's programmed. And these artifacts are fragments of the language that sustains it. It talks about we live inside of a constructed sub-reality, not the original plane. And this operates through frequencies and geometries. Humans were programmed to forget the original language that controlled the matrix, and the sphere is a fragment of an operating system in this reality. So it basically talks about those who are able to read in the future codes. What you call world is an environment. What you call life is a process. What you call destiny is a program. I was so seeing that on that day where I was speaking to you around what we call destiny is really something that we program into ourselves, because we create our destiny. Our destiny is not just something that's handed to us and we are subject to forces beyond our control. No, like we control our own destiny. That destined timeline and how you choose to respond to that circumstance instead of react, that's when you apply your free will. And the thing is, when you're lucid and how you engage in the third dimension, that also bleeds into dream state. That's how you actually have free will when it comes to contractual agreements that happen in dream state. Otherwise, you'll have all kind of stuff happening in the astral realm, you know, and not to mention what's happening on Earth in your waking state. When you go to sleep here and you wake up in other realms, how are you going to be lucid in those realms when you're not even lucid in how you're engaging or interacting within this system? You know, that's something that, you know, I talk about it a lot, but I found that super interesting because they basically talk about it's basically material evidence of how this matrix functions and how this world functions, and understanding, okay, this is almost like it requires a spiritual agility or athleticism, you know, and how you navigate it. There's a different kind of stamina where you have to learn how to pull yourself inwards when it's time to just pause and reflect, and how you want to choose to consciously respond. Because higher dimensional beings, they don't have that luxury that we do. Whenever you think something, if you think about clapping back, guess what? It's already happened. You know, it's like there is no lag time, or there's no pause or delay in which we experience from when something enters our mind. It. Unless we're just unconscious, you know, if we're unconscious, then it just happens. We'll just respond from that triggered place. But when you're conscious, you're conscious of the pause. There is power in the pause. Because again, it's about divine alignment. It's not delay. It's around how do I want to divinely align myself as a divine being roaming this earth according to my divine essence. So it's a very different way of navigating the system. And then you can see beauty in the paradox. When you come to that place of stillness and you're not afraid to pause and just be still, there's always beauty in, okay, I have selection of timelines available to me in regards to how I want to respond, in regards to how I want to pursue that goal or navigate this thing. There is so many, there's like a plethora, it's a myriad, it's infinite potential realities available to you. And you get to guide them very lucidly, right? You get to choose them through every thought, through every action. So it's that congruency, what feels so aligned.
Absolutely. They say being fluidity, you know, becoming water, and allowing ourselves to like flow through this thing, and do it from a state of, like you said, lucid. It's kind of like being lucid in your dream, because we are alive in our dream.
Yeah.
So therefore, everything is consciousness, you know. So when we realize that everything is consciousness playing itself out in so many different complex ways, we can allow ourselves to be like that was Herber. It was like, all right, you know, we hear it all the time, but like it's easier said than done at times, because you know the world can become so dense, and even when you know these types sort of concepts, it can still be difficult. You know what I mean? Navigating when you know certain scenarios happen in life. But I do believe that you know what I love. I love the 𝓼𝓻𝓭, because it really does teach about like the way, Wu Wei, and being able to like stay tapped in with just the flow and just being in a harmony. Because it's life is so dope when you just harmonically align with it, and you're literally allowing yourself to be fluid and flexible. yeah, mental and spiritual agility is everything. You know, being able to be like, okay, I thought I was going to go this way, but I'm okay with just letting it roll. I'm gonna roll with it. All right, cool. It is what it is. All right, cool. Bad. You know what I mean? And just being so freaking open minded and flexible when it comes to just how things transpire without having to think that it's supposed to happen a certain way. But we have infinite timelines and infinite ways things can actually work out. So why get so caught up in it having to be one way when we can actually experience it in ways that we've never experienced before?
Yeah, exactly. And when you said that, I was just thinking about it's so true. It's so easy to fall asleep in this dense plane. It's so easy to just go unconscious because it feels more comfortable, right? When you take the blue
Uh,
pill, just kind of unconsciously, numbly moving through the system, and you're just kind of in a state of, I wouldn't want to say taking a backseat, but it's like the ego is kind of leading the flesh in many avenues, and we're just completely, asleep to our connection to the deeper nature of this construct and reality. It you're not really aware, but when you're conscious and you're lucid and you are able to wake yourself up within density, and you can do lucidity checks again and again and again, like, oh my gosh, I just fell asleep. Okay, how many times did I fall asleep today? Was I conscious in everything that I was doing? Was I aware when I was
mhm.
actually, filling up my cup of water? How lucid was I in that process? How connected was I in that process? Then even in those moments where there's that interaction in that example that we gave, you can choose again, okay, what do I want to choose to do? There's many different dream landscapes available to me in this moment. I do this all the time. Like, you guys have seen me in Egypt upon, the Giza pyramids and everything. You see many different much contrast in this realm, many different things happening externally, but it never shakes you and it never moves you. Even in the most chaotic environments, it doesn't matter what's happening around you. When you are grounded, you are centered, you can choose how you want to
Yeah.
engage. It's like, do I want to enter into a parasitic timeline right now? I'm going to decline that option, right? Because all other beings will come towards you when you're unconscious, and it can be very easy to fall into a karmic timeline. And the thing is, if you don't like the timeline in which you found yourself into because you had fallen asleep, wake your ass up and, begin to lucidly guide it into a different direction. It's very, very easy. If you get, I
Yeah.
don't know if you've seen there's a video, and it's funny, but it's also not funny, because she basically has a response from the inner child where someone does something and she freaks out for a moment, but she's so self-aware. She freaked out for a moment, she fell into a low octave, and she said, no, but you guys, da 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 da, and then she went, oh, hold on, I'm an adult, hold on, sorry. And then she just catches that, she just chooses, okay, I was just in that timeline where I was, operating from a wounded unconscious place. She pulled her energy back and she said, oh, actually, I'm going to choose different. You can wake up like mid argument or like mid sentence, say, actually, I'm just going to walk away. It's like, I don't have to, you don't have, what timelines do you want to entertain right now? That's really what this is. And how
Yeah.
conscious are you in that?
And that's why it's so important to meditate. Meditation gives you that grace period. So when you're a person that practice meditation or practice levels of mindfulness, it gives you a certain grace period before you can actually respond. So it's like, or even react.
Mm,
So the fact that if you're a person that like really, like I say, take your mindfulness serious, it's almost like life will give you that moment in time to make that choice. But if you're
exactly.
not, if you're super reactionary, you know what I mean, you don't necessarily have that grace period. And that's one thing I
You
noticed about
literally
me is like
grow
when
that
certain
great
things,
matter. Yeah. You grow great matter
yeah.
in the brain when you meditate.
Hmm.
As you said,
So
that's
like when certain things happen, I always end up having, don't matter what state I always end up having the time to respond to it properly.
yeah.
And I will say that I would say I choose a higher route more times than not because it's like ain't no reason. I don't argue with people. That's just something I can't remember last time I had an argument. So it's kind of like, it's just, and it's times where I feel like an argument can happen, but I don't argue with people. So it's just like, that's just kind of like one of my things. So, but I do believe that comes from just not going down that route because it can easily turn into, especially if you're arguing with somebody who just want to be right about something. I'm like, I will let them be right. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. That's how
They
you
could be
access the past
wrong.
in the moment. Yeah. That is
Yeah, they
5D.
could be wrong.
it's not like it's not a destination. It's more of an internal location that you find yourself in, where
Yeah.
you can observe the contrast, but also admire it at the same time, where you can access higher dimensional thought in that moment. Again, you anchor in that higher level of
Hmm.
awareness into your current gameplay experience. How do I want to apply this otherworldly knowledge
Yeah.
in this realm, right? So that's activating the
Right.
pineal gland in that moment. It's where you're not only illuminating what's happening within your nervous system, but also what's happening within another person. You can see what's going on in their field and also hold space for that. And that is almost a responsibility and duty of those of us who are operating in this wavelength, right? It's where we begin to return those higher faculties. And that literally is the golden age consciousness. You do that through presence, you do that through meditation, as Mo said, you do that through stillness. And in that moment, then you cultivate your power, right? You're in meditation, it's so important because you're calling all of your life force back from all interactions, right? Consciously or unconsciously, anything that could have drained your life force in any way, so that you're fully present in the moment, right? You're not reacting from a
Yeah.
triggered pace because of what happened 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Instead, you have all of yourself here right now. That's what it is to become whole. That's what it is to become healed. So yeah, that linear identity begins to collapse because you see yourself as an eternal being, an eternal essence, and fear dissolves in that moment. You know, heaven is something that is now. It's not something that happens in the future. Enlightenment is now. You can see yourself and everyone else as a light being, and how connected or disconnected they are from that light. That golden age is it's a state of being. It's not an error, right? It's something that you can actually bring into the present moment. That's when your fractal of awareness
Mm.
is completely conscious of itself. When it's conscious, it begins to behave extremely differently, extremely, differently from what other people may embody. But you're here to mirror that different example. So that is it's a duty. That inner golden age begins. It begins with you. So
Yeah. I think enlightenment, I feel like we put so much on enlightenment. Sometimes people confuse enlightenment with just how much information you can spew out or how much information you can actually remember. But enlightenment, shit, at this point, it's just being present and being
yeah.
aware of your state of being. Like, I believe that's enlightenment. And
Mm.
however you reach that state of being or being, it's up to you. But, just like any other story, like even an alchemist, he was always looking for himself. So then true enlightenment is always going to be just knowing who you are in that present moment. And
Mhm.
just everything you're saying in terms of being able to respond in let's just say the most favorable way for yourself and the whole entire vibratory field in that moment.
Yeah, Jake said, I choose to offer enlightenments and not arguments.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do that.
exactly.
You do that just through your embodiment, and how gracefully you choose to navigate a situation and just this realm as a whole.
Yeah,
It shows a different kind of level of connection that you have, not just to yourself, but also interconnectedness to all things. You treat everyone else with respect as you would with yourself. So, does anyone in the chat have any questions for Mo or I? We'll try to answer.
yes, sir.
Jake said sometimes those comments you overhear stick with you for months and you ignore them, and then bam, you walk through a portal and that comment poos through your head again. Then you see your guides work. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you don't you sometimes you think that you're healed from something, but to truly be healed is to look back at a circumstance and the moment that once triggered you so badly, and you don't really feel anything at all. You're able to just
Mm,
completely extract the wisdom from that experience, and you see it through the lens
yeah,
of wisdom instead of the lens of pain, right? Are you reacting from the wounded self or the one who has maybe understood? Again, one thing that has always helped me, especially in meditation, is putting myself in the shoes of another. When you really tune into the field and see that point of resonance, you can't help but, at least I've always come to that same place, and I know Mo has as well. You can't help but do anything else but actually love them. Like, you
yeah.
truly send compassion for the individual because you understand, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, like they are in a really dark place sometimes, depending on what has happened in
Yeah,
the circumstance, or they're just completely unaware of actually how those wounds are manifesting in their life and the reason
Yeah,
behind why they've done those things. You know, we can hide from ourselves. We love to play hide and go seek with our ego sometimes.
for
So
sure.
yeah, when you see that, it's yeah, Steve Love said, I don't believe you can do light work without first doing dark work. Exactly. It's not all just
Yeah.
light and love in the, you know, community. It's it's
Light work
I feel
is dark work. I mean, it is what it is. Dark work is light work. Light work is dark work.
like it
Uh,
is.
yeah, you can't escape that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, embody conscious awareness, knowing myself. Can I ask a question about my life? Sure, XYZ. If you have like a personal thing that you're wanting to get through, and I'm sure it's going to apply somehow collectively.
Mm.
If you're like you're experiencing a level of, you know, self-doubt around doing that thing or taking that risk or however it is, or dealing with this person, anything. How do you feel, Mo, about heading into a numerical year 3 for anyone who may be in a personal year 3 as a life path 33, which I just put those two
Yeah.
together as well.
Yeah, it's a 3-3-3 year. Yeah. Honestly, I'm super excited. I'm preparing myself for my greatest timeline. You know, this is going to be a expressive year for myself, communication. I believe this personal year too, just being in solitude for so long, has really prepped me to appreciate being, I would say, back in the spotlight to a certain degree. You know, I was kind of
Mhm.
just playing the background. I remember we spoke earlier this year. I'm just like, I'm kind of taking a role of just kind of playing in the background right now. Then
Yeah.
slowly but surely started like putting myself back out there, because moving forward, for me, it's going to be about my visibility, you know, and
Mhm.
that's why I'm in a scenario that I'm in now, where I'm working with young people. I'm in a much more action oriented environment. So I'm looking forward to it, because like I said, just being in solitude for so long, you kind of excited to be around people again and just dealing with the different scenarios, and really adjusting to just being around so many different energies and picking up on them, because it's one of those things where, you know, you can do grounding work, and but when you put yourself back out there, man, you pick up on. I feel everything. You know, I can feel when somebody is sad. I can feel when this person. So it shows me how much more grounding that I need to do. But I'm super
Mhm.
excited, because I feel like it's going to be like a breakout year for me. I know it's going to be. It's yeah, it's a breakout year for me. So
Three's
I'm super
growth.
excited. Three is like my yeah. Three is kind of like my lucky number, I guess. You know what I mean? You
Mm.
reduce 33 down to three. You know, and yeah, and I just think that I'm just ready to embrace the responsibilities of being in my personal 3 year, knowing that the world collectively is going through a personal 1 year. So, like I said earlier in our build, I just think that you know, I kind of got here a little sooner, so it's like I can guide people who actually, you know, however this work. You know, what I'm saying, I'm just here. I'm just looking forward to being the greatest light I can possibly be, and just doing well, man. You know, I just want to do well, and help others do well as well.
Mm. Spot on. I feel like 3 as well. It's one of those. It's one of the energetic signatures with that numerical essence of growth, like a lot of communication. And I found it interesting how
Mm,
when we've been, because we've always gone through cycles where we've checked in with each other on our soul missions. And then I feel like we both have gone into that. It's been like simultaneous, where we're both going through our own subjective journeys. But then when we tap in, we're like, oh, this is a collective theme. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one going through this right now. So we
you
both
already
went
know.
of I feel like that was a year of the snake and the and 9 year in general, where it's like, okay, you're kind of going through this spiral motion of going inwards and then outwards, where
Mm,
how well can you integrate and apply the things that you've learned in solitude, because that's a huge part as well, where I feel almost like what was I going to say about it? Almost like you've never been this version of yourself before. So how would this version of self be
mm,
able to navigate these social dynamics or situations? Because you get to respond different,
right.
embodying a different version of self. Um, but yeah, I've got some questions that we can also ask you. I want to ask about starseed awakenings, and what would you recommend to someone who's going through like a soul remembrance, or maybe they're going through, you know, a sudden pivot or trajectory in their life, or they feel like they're receiving these downloads and they don't know what to do with them, or they're just going through basically a point of remembrance. Maybe they're questioning, you know, their position in this realm or reality. What would be through your channeling, what do you feel like these individuals and individual organisms of consciousness need to know at that stage of their evolution, even if they've been through it and they're going through like another, almost like submation, if you will, like they're being re-immersed in it much deeper, how you go through those cyclical cycles and they're trying to navigate that.
Man, get that notepad. Get you a notepad. Write it out. I don't care what it is. Just for real, for real. It's better than just keeping all this stuff bogged up in you. For me, when I'm going through like heavy shifts in my life, I'm writing crazy. Like I'm running through notebooks every month. So definitely, I think it's power in just putting that pen to the pad, and it helps you organize your thoughts. It feels better. It's a release. It's relieving. It pretty much it helps with the stress of growth and awakening, and it just organizes it. And then guess what happens? Spirit can speak through you through your through that pen. So it's just like a lot of the information that you're getting, if you're not, let's just say, moving it around through writing or through exercise or through yoga, through practices like that, it begin, you can actually overheat or decombust. You know what I'm saying? So it's very
Yeah, like
important that you get this information and you move it around. Absolutely. Yeah, writing is everything, man. Write as much as you can. For sure. That'll help you process all of this information, because
yeah,
that's what it is. It's just processing.
you need a channel for it. If you can find a way to re-channel or redirect that energy of confusion into clarity. Sometimes if you just write the things that you're even confused about, right, or you don't know what to do, or anything that you're feeling, if you can just write that out and allow yourself to be in that flow state, it maybe you need to say it out loud, or you need to just find a way to maybe connect with yourself on a deeper level. I feel like there's also guides that you can connect to. When you do that, you'll kind of see what lies, because you have different realms of consciousness that you'll move through, and occupying each one of those dimensional planes can also be other guides that you can call forth if you do feel like you need what appears to be an external guide, but it's also a manifestation of your subconscious mind. Those things can also help as well. And for
Yeah.
identity shifts, for those who may feel different, or like they've never really, say they don't really fit into the human world, or what is that experience kind of pointing towards them? For example, if they feel, people that like, I don't want to be here, I don't feel like I
Yeah.
belong here, what would you say to those people?
Yeah. I feel like we all go through those moments. Those are very challenging moments where the times where I felt that way is almost the times where I didn't feel like I was being I was useful. Only time I felt like I didn't really want to be here, I'm just like, all right, when I didn't feel like I was needed. So
Mm,
it really boils down to the idea of getting back to your purpose, and getting, and
mm,
obviously gratitude, gratefulness and gratitude, but really getting to a point where you really hone in on what your purpose is. And that's that's the key. Finding out what that purpose is, and that will give you a lot more, um, I would say, just it would bring your joy back in terms of why you're here. And then once you begin to take those steps and just kind of move towards your purpose, things will begin to correlate around you. And then it will give you that confidence of like, okay, because a lot of times we do want to serve others. We do want to be
yeah,
useful. We do want to have our place here in this world. And when you come into certain levels of consciousness, it's very lonely, man. It's a lonely road. And I will tell people, like, if you're not necessarily ready to go down this hero's journey, um, don't. You know what I'm saying? Wait till you're ready. You know what I'm saying? Because it's
yeah,
nothing fancy about it. It's not a lot of applause. There's not a lot of validation. Only validation that comes with it is you validating yourself along the way. And it becomes very, very, very difficult at times, because you might not necessarily get any, like, I would say, positive reinforcement at times, and that's difficult for us because we're so used to reward systems in this reality. So getting to the point where you choose and determine what's a suitable reward or success for you. I had to really give myself so many themes on this journey, like so many personal themes that I had to give myself to keep me motivated and inspired. I had to redefine what success is for me. I had to redefine what self-love is. I had to redefine all of these things on this journey, because once again, this is the path least, what's to say, the I don't know, I forgot the term, but this is the least the road least traveled for the most part.
yeah,
So you run into, and then you find yourself, and then, man, we connect, and I connect with other people. Then next thing you know, I done created a little baby tribe. So it's like, oh snap! Now I'm starting to see the fruits of my labor become evident in my world. But it's definitely going to be times where it feels lonely and dark because it's not a lot of people to talk to. But it's not meant for you to have a lot of people to talk to when you're going through the hero's journey in certain points, because that's the time that you're supposed to spend with yourself and source. It's amazing how when you're really going through some of these dark times in life, when you call somebody, they don't pick up. You waiting on, but it was always meant for you to figure it out from within, and
Mm.
then you get the phone call. Yo, what's bro? How you doing? You're like, oh shit, I'm good. Nah. But you had to really
Reinforcing.
validate that for yourself. Yeah, and then
Keeping
the external help comes later. It's difficult, man. It ain't always easy, but once again, it's worth it. It's 100% worth it because
Mhm.
there's nothing better than knowing who you are in this reality.
I deeply resonate with that as well. I was speaking about that with a friend actually, Stephanie, that's in the chat a few weeks back about sometimes we just want to feel useful. Like sometimes we just want to be able to be of service. And when you're in that depressed state, oftentimes, like if you're experiencing depression or moving through hard energy, it usually can stem from feeling like you're not of use. And she was talking about something subconsciously that happens within an individual when they can be of service, even if just in a small way, like, okay, can you help me, pick up this and this, or help me, grab that, or whatever it is, even if it's small. Can you pass me the water? Can you do anything in such a small way? Those acts allow you to actually connect with others, and then you feel more deeply connected to yourself because, oh, you are actually useful. And I felt that at the end of my ceremony where I was sitting and there was this complete awe and admiration of this whole construct because I was shown how the whole system worked in the matrix. And I was just sitting here in complete, again, just gratitude of, oh my gosh, like this is really a playground for us to play in. But then there was also this sense of nihilism. And then I realized, oh my gosh, we actually have purpose because it's something that drives us in this realm. Without purpose, we don't have meaning.
Mm,
Without purpose, our life completely loses that meaning. So if we can
right.
allow that purpose and whatever that destiny is that we want to create for ourselves in this lifetime to be something that grounds us and anchors us, that will be exactly that. It will be your anchor. That will be your anchor whenever you feel like, things outside of you are kind of, again, you're falling unconscious to things outside of yourself. You'll draw your energy back inwards, and that will be the thing that allows you to feel safe and secure and stable in your body. You'll be in your body because you're 100% sure on what that mission is. There's nothing else. There's no other doubts. There's no other, it doesn't matter what someone says because you are sure within your body. You are sovereign. You have that head and heart coherence. They completely march in the same direction. They're not incongruent from one another. You are married to this intention that you have for yourself in this lifetime, and that is the contract with marriage. um yeah. someone said
Absolutely.
something
Well said.
Someone said something, there was a question, let me see. First of all, Lioness said, I had a meditation and I was hearing these words. When I translated it, it was Sanskrit. It felt so familiar. These beings were calling me to rise and release fear because it was beneath me. It was deep. That's crazy, Lioness. That's
Mm,
literally like, those are the messages that can come through. You'll be surprised. Jake had a question and said,
mm.
relapse is often triggered. Who and what is mirroring your subconscious? What do you have to say about that, Mo, when it comes to relapse, when it comes to maybe addiction to a substance because of the biochemical
Mm.
reaction and response within the body? What do you feel like that
Man,
on a
that's a
soul level is? Do you feel like it could be? He said through my addiction journey, I've brought so much light to some of the lost souls, including myself. What do you
yeah,
feel like
man. That's
that's
another.
inspiring? Yeah.
That's like a multi-dimensional question because I believe that even if your addictions are putting you in certain environments for you to be the one that perhaps be a light for somebody else, you just never know what that contract might serve as. So sometimes addictions are. I'm just giving you a different perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
even if let's just say you relapse, all right, whatever that may mean. You might been a person who hadn't drank in a year or drink, or you binge drink for 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
um the fact that you have an opportunity to let's just say autocorrect yourself. And then the most important thing is not to fall into guilt, shame, and all of these other hellish states, and really recognize that this is a journey. I believe that you're literally healing some ancestral wounds,
Yeah.
because obviously you want to, you don't ever want to fall back into like certain addictions and stuff like that, especially if they're causing harm in your life. We understand that, but I believe that if you autocorrect yourself every single time you keep getting back up, you're literally like helping not only your lineage, but you're helping your own personal bloodline to actually heal from whatever that addiction is. But
Yeah.
I think the main thing that people struggle with when it comes to addiction, they just beat themselves up, or like just say relapsing. They really beat themselves up, and we already
Yeah.
know guilt, shame, grief. Those are all hellish states.
Yeah, that's a huge trigger. It will just trigger the cycle. I
It
feel like
triggers the cycle.
yeah, you're spot on with that, where your ancestors continue. There's so many souls that continue to express themselves through you and also live through you. And if there are unconscious wounds, that will literally show you what the ancestral wound is, that you're actually, you have the exact tools within you to alchemize within this lifetime. So that could be a whole lineage that comes from wounds of possible abandonment. I bet you'll see that also mirrored and subconscious triggers when it comes to people that you'll meet. There will be abandonment wounds. There will be maybe rejection wounds, maybe not being chosen, or feeling like you're being judged, or maybe you're feeling unseen in some kind of aspect of your life, and that becomes a form of escapism. Often people fall into that escapism tendency because they want to numb out what it is that they're feeling within the present moment, because it feels uncomfortable. It always comes from some type of source. So it's not that other people are the cause, but they can mirror those wounds to you, that can end up mirroring where it is that you actually abandon yourself, right? And where you need to show up for yourself. It can show where there's an aspect that you feel shame about when it comes to, okay, maybe you've come back to the bottle, or you've come back to whatever it is that you want to be able to, escape it into, and you kind of reject yourself in that moment. So you have to accept even that octave within you that, okay, maybe I'm addicted, and that's okay. What you resist will strengthen. What you accept will neutralize the energy instantaneously. And what you surrender to, which is, okay, I'm surrendering to the fact that I'm accepting all of me, not just a part of me, because I feel like this part is going to be accepted and this part isn't. I'm not going to judge myself, right? That's the biggest part. I'm going to see myself, and I'm going to see all of myself. And that's what the real shadow integration is. Because the paradox is, you can't change unless you accept yourself exactly as you are, and you can't shame yourself into change either. You have to get to a point where you decide to fully love yourself into change, and that's because you're loving yourself and accepting yourself, even the version of yourself that has done that thing. Does it make that you're making excuses for relapsing or going back, but it's saying, okay, what am I going to do? Every new day is a new lifetime, as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to bring those thoughts of, okay, what has happened? Let's start fresh. Every moment can be a new lifetime. Just snap your fingers and say, right? Dorothy taps her red heels, she goes back home. Isn't that? And then the yellow brick road is the nerve, is the vagus nerve, right? You're not in a fight or flight response. You can feel safe in your body, right? Be in your body fully. And the old self, the biggest trigger. It's like, we'll even look back at photos of ourselves from that time, and we'll see our past mistakes, or we'll see that past identity and those past coping mechanism senses, and that's what our body remembers. Our body actually has that memory, holds the memory of that is what had brought us a sense of comfort. Eventually that sense of comfort, there will be a discomfort within your comfort zone, because that no longer supports your soul's evolution. But again, as Mo said, sometimes we're drawn back into certain environments, and there can always be a blessing within that experience. Maybe within that environment, that person wouldn't have met you. You wouldn't have formed that friendship. You wouldn't have formed that alliance. Maybe you go back into that environment, and sometimes we do that just to see that it's not for us anymore. Other times we're still kind of outgrowing those behavioral patterns, and maybe it's something that someone says to us that finally clicks, right? Or it's something that we remember the next time that we have the bottle, but then we choose not to drink from it in that moment. The moment's conscious, and you choose different. So yeah, that's what I have to say. It's usually familial emotional states. A lot of the times it gives you a full sense of comfort and safety. Cosmologia. Stephanie said, shouldn't you just take action, take one step and get feedback, even if you don't know your purpose yet? Shouldn't you just take
Yeah,
action, take one step and get feedback, even if you don't know your purpose yet?
I think that's I mean that's a great way of putting it. You know what I mean? Taking steps in the right direction. I would say the easiest way for me to find, or I would say one of the easiest ways for you to find your purpose is to what brings you the most passion. What are you most passionate about naturally? What comes to you naturally? And that's like for me, like certain things just come naturally to me, like children, like they just gravitate towards me. So it's just like young people and children. So it's like just me being in that realm at times. It just shows me like, okay, here's a part of my purpose. So your
Mhm.
purpose can be multidimensional, but I definitely believe in taking steps in the right direction can lead you. But what are you passionate about? You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
think your purpose is going to come from just dreadfulness. It's going to be something that's naturally feel good to you. So whatever
Yeah.
that is, wherever you can be a light, that's typically where your purpose is going to lie. So if
Mm.
you're a chef, you love cooking, you love making people happy through different meals and designs and stuff like that. Your purpose is to serve through that way, and it will come to you easy, and you'll
Mm.
find yourself, having the greatest times of your life by just making people happy from your dishes and stuff like that. So whatever you're passionate about, it don't matter what it is.
That's beautifully said. I completely agree with that. If you can find, not necessarily, I don't like to call it like a demand, right? Like a service in demand, right? But if you can find how to be of service through something that you love and a way to facilitate maybe a requirement or a need or a yearning that somebody may have, especially on a soul level, like if it feels so aligned with you too, then you're hitting the jackpot, because if you're in that flow of abundance and you're creating for creation's sake, and it's, your innate gifts and abilities are always going to be linked to the things that bring you profound joy. So if you can find something that
Yeah,
brings you profound joy, that joy is going to emanate out of you. You're literally in your element, where you'll have that exothermic
exactly.
reaction. You can then spread joy and light and heat to your surroundings in that motion. And that was like a huge thing as well that I was getting through that session, where it was like, isn't it good to laugh, like isn't it good to have fun? And I was telling you, Mo, where it's like, there was one point where I just couldn't stop laughing, and as I was laughing, everyone else started laughing, and it was just, you could see the vibration of how joy was something that just spread out. And sometimes your purpose is
Yeah,
just to, be that shining light on maybe another soul's darkest hour, and you don't even realize how many people you can suddenly, inspire through that as well. And sometimes we go through
exactly.
those dark periods of ourselves just so we can hold compassion and hold space for another person in a way that we were kind of forced sometimes to hold space for ourselves, right? Even going back to the
Yeah,
addiction thing, sometimes we go through that just to learn valuable lessons. We don't know that 20 years something down the line, there's going to be someone who reminds us of that old version of ourselves, and we can actually tell them something that maybe we wish we had heard. Maybe
yeah.
it's not even about the things you say, but the things that you don't say, the way that you can hold space for them in a way that you had learned to do for yourself. So
Hmm. Yeah,
sometimes
that's
that
what the
is the gift.
testimonies are for. We go through things so we can actually display testimony for other people, and I mean, I'm a testimony of that. Just being able to like live life and go through so many scenarios, and typically, people that go through things, they gravitate towards me, and I'm able to help them with certain scenarios because I've been through these scenarios before, so it's like I provide a level of comfort for them. So, I mean, that's
Mhm.
purposeful right there. You know what I mean? The fact that I was able to get through certain things and look out for my bros or my sis and be like, hey, I know exactly how you feel. That helps, and it
Mhm.
really helps. It helps. It makes me feel good to help people in that regard. So it does boil down to the idea of just creating a ripple effect and just using our lives as living, breathing testimonies to be able to help other people in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It reminds me of sometimes we are here to serve many purposes in a way that we don't even realize yet.
Mm,
Like sometimes the purpose that you were
yeah.
serving at that time in your life, like I'll give you a personal example. I remember when I was a teenager, I was extremely just, I was going through a very, tumultuous upbringing and a lot of things that happened. And I really felt like I was literally about to, end my existence on this earth. And I remember so vividly, there was a delivery man that came and he knocked at the door and I'm like wiping my tears, right? And I'm going to the door and I'm putting myself together. And as soon as I answered, he had this big smile on his face. And I'll never forget this man. He was so jolly and so happy. And he wasn't even conscious of it, right? He was completely, he brought this energy and this vibration. And after that encounter, all he did was deliver a package, but he delivered much more than what he knew his purpose was. Maybe he did on a higher level, right? At that
Yeah,
time.
of course.
And it was things change. It's crazy just how quickly you can impact those around you, even if they're unconscious to it, and even if like both parties are unconscious to it. Sometimes your life is meant to serve another purpose at that moment in time, and you can have so many purposes that maybe you're not even aware of. The way that you impacted people, the way that you touched people, along their journey in life,
Mm,
and I think that's like a huge thing to also point out.
yeah, it's so important. That goes back to the responsibility again, just being responsible. As soon as you leave the house, not to say you got to be on no fake shit, but you can definitely be like, okay, you know what? I'm a smile. I'm going to initiate the good energy, instead of waiting for the
Mm,
world to give us the vibrations. No, we come in equipped with the vibrations because we're literally walking lighthouses. So when you know that you're walking lighthouse and know that your smile can actually like brighten up somebody's day, that's a service. That's a service.
exactly.
And yeah, it might not necessarily be a like button for it or a share button, but trust me, on a vibrational scale, that's really going a long way when you can actually, you know, be mindful when you leave the house. You just never know who you may rub the right way, so
Yeah.
it does matter how we project ourselves every single day and every moment, more than ever.
Monroe said at Mo, yes, even a sun wobbles. Did
You
you
said
get
even the
that?
sun wobbles.
Yeah, even a sun wobbles.
what
It's
do
true.
you what do you mean by that?
Can you clarify that, Monroe?
Yeah. Give me some information on that. You
Clarify
said
it
the
a little
sun
bit, a
wobbles.
little bit more.
The sun be wobbling? I ain't never seen the sun wobble.
I mean, it's a vibrating orbital plasma, so I think
The
I
sun
think
wobble.
I don't know if I'm correct, but I'm thinking maybe he's saying like even the sun, the most expansive force, can still, it can still go through unstable moments.
Oh,
So
okay. Well,
trust.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
I could be completely wrong, so we'll see.
I think that. I mean, honestly, if I had to be a guesser, man, so even the sun can be like blocked by the shade a little bit, but the sun is still kind of like it's still the sun.
Yes,
So yeah,
going behind the clouds.
yeah, that's real. That's real. Yeah, that's funny
Okay.
when you think about nature though, because nature is kind of like we always talk about. Oh, we got to get back to nature. We love nature, natural, but nature can be violent as well. You know, the sun can
Uh,
be.
it's true. The sun can do damage. It's like the story of Icarus. If you fly too close to the sun, your wax wings may melt. That's a story about the
You
ego,
cut.
like wanting to. Yeah. Someone said something. They said Joel said, "What is the void?"
The void. What's it? The void is it's that place. That's the silence.
Yeah, the
The void is
nothingness,
the
the
silence.
stillness. It's where
Yeah, that's the silence.
everything and nothing is simultaneously.
Absolutely. And then sometimes the void is. I mean, it would be considered the unknown to a certain degree, but that's where you get the information. Like when you close your eyes and you just get silent as much you can, and then that's when you know that information comes in. It's funny though. Even when you come out of like the void of meditation, this happens with me a lot. Like if I'm meditating, right, and I'm just kind of vibing, I don't start really getting downloads until I actually like open my eyes and start moving around. Then that's when I started having like different downloads and stuff come in.
Yeah, you
So
start
yeah,
getting
the
into that.
void. Yeah, for sure.
It's like you come out of that and you anchor other information, and you're still streamlining
Mm.
it as you continue your day after
Yeah.
meditation. It's like you'll work through maybe a major integration process in your meditation, and you'll come back to that place of
Hmm.
stillness and connection with the whole, and then you'll be navigating your day, and it's just there's all these profound revelations that will happen about whatever it is that you were working through during that time.
It's facts.
PFOS said, could you please compare and contrast holographic virtual simulated reality? So they're
Uh,
asking, what's a holographic reality, virtual simulated reality?
I believe it's all the same thing. I think everything he just said is all one and the same. Virtual reality, hologram, pixelated. All of it is. He's just basically explained the whole thing. So if we're looking at this as a hologram, we will have to, just kind of perhaps lean on the ideas of we're projecting this from our higher self, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a game. So it's a holographic game that we're imagining that we're having for this human experience. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as it being the hologram and the virtual reality, I don't see a difference in none of those things. Simulation. I mean, I kind of view that all as the same. Simulated
Yeah.
universe, program reality. I think about numbers. I think about sacred geometry. I think about shapes, symbols, colors, vibration, frequency, sound. I think I said that already. But yeah, I think that's all part of the whole entire holographic universe that we're participating in.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, where you don't live in the universe lives in you, and then that
Yeah.
field of information is then is something that your consciousness decodes. So the way I see it, and you might want to watch the I did a reading on this when it comes to astrocartography and how it's your soul's map laid out against the world, but it talks about this external lattice, and light changes and refracts depending on the way that it moves through this lattice, which is it's like a crystal or a prism, and when light moves through you begin to see like um, different ways that the soul can express itself, the soul can animate itself through form. And it basically just talks about how we are the universe having a human experience, and inside of us it's as above so below, it's as within so without. So our internal lattice, the way that we see reality based upon our belief systems, or our fears, just whatever that is that holds us back, we is then projected outwardly, right? So we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And when we talk about things or people kind of downloading, right, as this virtual simulation into our reality, or collapsing through space and time and becoming part of our third dimensional experience, it's because we draw them in through resonance, right, through the laws of the universe that govern, you know, govern you and govern the way that you move through this
Yeah.
construct. So yeah, it's like this. It's projected outwardly, right? You don't see things as they are. You see them as you are, right? Is that you
Yeah.
don't see things as they are, you see them as you are. So it depends upon the field in which you're interpreting the field around you that's projected from you. It's like if you have a certain wound, let's just say you have a wound of like this, let's say like you have an abandonment wound or something, and that comes from like your sacral chakra, okay? And there's an imbalance there. What will happen within this simulation is then you'll project outwardly this dimensional field that you are now moving through reality through. That becomes your biggest filter of perception, where
Right.
everywhere you look, you begin to play the character and embody the character that has wounded sacral chakra energy. So that could be shame, it could be guilt,
Mm.
insecurity, it could be some kind of parasitic belief system you hold within yourself that leads to you feeling really not confident at all, because all the chakras will impact one another. The way that you exchange your life force in this realm, okay? So there could be someone that comes up in your experience, and reality is going to reinforce that wound to you. So there's someone that's going to reinforce something that you feel shameful about. So if you feel shameful maybe about, for example, addiction, we'll take our example from earlier, then what will happen is someone will come in and you'll feel judged in that scenario, even if that's not how someone is actually seeing you, because you have this self-judgment within yourself. You'll believe
Yeah.
completely judging you, right, in how they see you. And I saw a comment about this the other day where someone was like, I feel really overwhelmed, and I get triggered when people look at me because, you know, I believe that they're judging me. But that's your own internal lattice. It's because you are judging yourself. You know, it's like you can't, no one can reject you unless by the law of resonance, you reject yourself in this aspect, right? That's where we can
That's
like reject
crazy.
ourselves from our own success before we even take action towards it because we're afraid that we're going to be rejected. Then you'll go into the job interview and guess what reality is going to do? It's going to reinforce that rejection to you because that's what you believed,
Yeah.
right? So that's how the holographic universe works. It's literally a projection of our own internal either like wounds or, you know, wholeness that we have as well. Like there's beauty that can be projected, but that's the low octave side of it, right? So that's why
Right.
people, things are going to download into our experience, into the simulation, if you will. That's
Mm.
the way I see it.
No, that's
It's
super spot on. A lot of this,
yeah, I
it,
feel
it is on our own personal head. Yeah, we believe, and it's funny how humans we want to prove ourselves right so bad to where it's like even if it's some terrible stuff, it's like, oh, see, I told you it was going to happen. But somehow that's a sick cycle to be in because now you're literally trying to prove yourself right about some undesirable stuff.
mm, no, that's so spot on. You'll experience either side, like you'll experience different octaves of reality, but it all stems and originates from what's going on within you. Monroe
Yeah.
said talking about addiction, it is an energetic gravity. You know what it is? I found this anyway within my own experience that when it comes to cycles of addiction, sometimes you'll literally outgrow a substance, like you'll outgrow your resonance to it. Like I know for me, I used
Mhm.
to smoke like years ago. I've been sober for many years, and I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't. It's even though some people thought I think I was smoking on one of the videos because my eyes were red from. I think they were just watering from the altitude, but at least my experience when it comes to that was that you will actually feel this grounding that happens in the body, and sometimes it's supportive at that stage of your evolution, and sometimes it's something that you can outgrow in resonance. Sometimes it's things that you can cycle back to, but you'll change your relationship to it. There will no longer be like this
Right.
codependency on it. It will be utilized, any kind
Right.
of medicinal properties, it's utilized as more of a tool. Like people can abuse psychedelics, for example, right? Because they don't know
Yeah.
how to cultivate that connection within themselves. So they can rely on an external substance to, in an attempt to feel more connected with themselves. Is it a conscious tool that you're working with, or is it something that we're abusing? Because anything can be medicine or poison, depending upon, you know, is it taken in excess or is it something that's taken consciously in moderation? And you may even get to a stage where you're just no longer a vibrational match with that specific medicine or tool. Like it served a purpose in your journey, but maybe you'll
Yeah.
just feel like it's no longer of use to you. What do you feel when it comes to that?
I think that is a little bit of both because I think if you it all depends on your level of um relationship with any type of addiction. If it's like you said, it's a difference between alcohol and alcohol abuse. It's a difference between sex and sexual abuse. It's a difference between abuse and use. So if you're a person who's okay with the idea of being moderate, but you want for me, I go long periods without doing any of that stuff. I abstain from certain things just to be able to show myself that I can be disciplined without it. I'm not attached to it in order for me to be like, okay, if I do decide to do it at any given point, it will be done in a certain form of moderation. And everybody's moderation is different. So it's just one of those things where it's like if I decide to do any of that stuff, I know for a fact that I can put it down at any time. And that's something I
Mm-mm.
have to prove to myself.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that we can do for ourselves in terms of being able to, because in the end, you're the only one you got to prove anything to. So if you can go without certain things for long periods of time and you feel good about it, if you decide to go back to it, you do it from a different state of mind versus I have to
Yeah,
have this in order.
and that's with anything, by the way. Like that's an
Yeah,
addiction to sugar. That's an addiction to your phone, to social media, to scrolling. That's an addiction with anything. If you're
Yeah.
present, and we spoke about this before, I feel like we were speaking about this earlier in the year, where we were like, sometimes it's time to just put the phone down, sometimes it's aware of, are you even unconscious of the fact that your phone is in your hand right now? Are you conscious that you're
Yeah.
actually engaging and interacting? Do you feel like this is something that is a conducive thing for you to be able to do? Joshua said, I love what he said. He said the sun, S-U-N, or the sun, like S-O-N. And that reminds me of the sun being the soul, like even the soul wobbles. That was that saying. Sebu said the sun is in instability. Anything else? Infinite potential plus the void. Mo said. Even the sun wobbles, infinite potential plus the void. That reminds you of light wave or light curves, how they're unstable and they're ever changing, right? Do you think you could still be a lighthouse for people if you're in the middle of your addiction? That's what Love is the Answer said.
I think so.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely. I believe so.
Okay. You are the render of your own experience. Yeah, 100% Monroe. Lioness said, addiction doesn't make you not worthy. I believe you see things differently because of your addiction. Yeah, you definitely can. You are a light. Addiction only dulls the way that you see your own light. Exactly. Others still see it 100%. Steve said, yes, only who you are beyond the veil. Have you met your essence? Yeah, I mean, you can send your consciousness out to the edges of the universe and then anchor it back into the present. And Sandra says, I don't know my triggers, but when they happen, I get extremely anxious. What's a good way to help with extreme anxiety?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would have to just say, ask yourself, where did this stem from? Because it's always going to go back to the root. It's always going to go back to the root cause. What is the root cause of this trigger? And why do I still feel like I need to hold on to this actual emotion of this trigger?
Yeah.
And these are the questions you begin to ask yourself before you begin to release these different aspects of triggers. I think the main thing is not to lash out at the person who triggers you, because in the end, unless they're just being complete asshole out of nowhere, just like, all right, but nonetheless, most people, believe it or not, their intentions are not to trigger people. So if you ask yourself, like, if something triggered me, I'm immediately, asking, I'm like, damn, why is that? I'm like, all right, cool. Okay. And then you immediately have compassion for yourself because it typically started from somewhere along your childhood where you really didn't have much, you didn't understand when you was a kid. So it's like, now you got compassion for yourself. You're like, oh, man, this really ain't even my fault, but I'm gonna take responsibility for it because I don't want to keep being triggered by the same thing, because guess what? Is as long as you allow yourself to be triggered by it, you're going to continue to be triggered by it until you address the trigger and realize that you don't even hold on to it no more, because it's your belief in that trigger will brings it those emotional signals.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think when anxiety arises within the body is telling you something. The body is actually asking you for you to sit with what that feeling is. And sometimes you don't know what that trigger is, right? Just by the feeling, just by that sensation, because the emotion can become so strong and so profound and concentrated that we actually forget the information behind it. We can't even see it clearly. It kind of, that emotion clouds our vision, it kind of distorts the way that we see what that information is. So the best thing to do is when you feel triggered, I would say sit. This is why meditation is it's such a necessity. It really is a tool, and it's something that when you consciously utilize, you'll notice this throughout your day. Okay, so what I would invite you to do is to sit with yourself, to sit with that emotion. Okay, even I think Joe Dispenza does this kind of a meditation where you sit with that emotion. What was your biggest trigger over the last 24 hours, over the last week, over the last month, whatever you want to do? See what arises within the body, because it's incredibly intelligent. It will tell you exactly what that is. And it usually is going to come with the memory of an event. Okay, that emotion is going to open up this whole database of memories, and have all kind of thoughts around it, right? Maybe a character that had played a part in that story. Maybe it's just something that triggered you and it made you feel anxious within your body. Whenever you feel anxious, does it come from love or does it come from fear? It's usually stemmed from feeling unsafe. You felt unsafe in a
Yeah.
situation. And what you're going to see is some type of event that had triggered you. Now, if you can begin to observe your emotion, okay, almost like put yourself in the state of the observer and pay attention to where is that trigger showing up in the body. Is it a trigger maybe in your solar plexus? Maybe is there a level of lack of confidence that you felt? Maybe it's a level of disconnection that you've had from the self. Maybe it's like self-trust that you need more of, right? Maybe it's where you've doubted yourself. Maybe there's some type of wound there. Maybe there's some kind of shame or guilt in your sacral chakra, right, that has been triggered, but you're going to see exactly what it is. And then you can go into that circumstance and you can, this is a lot to do with epigenetic reprogramming. You can even go as far deep into, you're often going to get like, again, a database of memories. So it could even be, again, like Mo said, going back to the root. You can literally go back to this event that happened in your childhood and you're going to see, okay, that was the circumstance where I took on that belief system. That was the moment that that trigger was formed. I formed a personality around that belief system, right, around that event, and that was a survival mechanism that I've still been carrying with me to this day. Maybe I've considered myself as a shy person, but really that's the moment that I was disempowered and I began to dim my light. Okay, so then you sit with it and you provide yourself with what it is that you need most in that moment. So maybe if you felt that anxiety, how can you fill your body with the feeling of, maybe in that circumstance you needed acceptance. Okay, maybe you needed compassion. Whatever it is, you can supply yourself with it. You can supply yourself with that stability in your body. Maybe you needed to feel safe in your body. Maybe you had dissociated with yourself and you needed to be able to actually connect with yourself on a deeper level. And then that's when you begin to perform alchemy. That will actually heal the connection, right, that you've been entangled with, and those cords will then begin to dissolve. Actually, that's what alchemy is. It's where you will now look back at that situation. Maybe you'll come back to an event in waking life that used to make you feel anxious, but if you do this properly and you heal it and you restore it, you will actually begin to notice maybe what has arisen within the body, and you can give yourself what it is that you need in that moment that you thought that you needed from the external. So maybe even if there's something that happened, like, oh my gosh, there's like a payment that came through, I wasn't seeing that coming, and there's like a huge chunk of change just come out of my bank account, I'm beginning to feel unsafe. Maybe there's like, you know, themes like that in your life. Okay, how can I fill my body with safety, right? Let's fill our body with security and stability, right? Let's be grounded in the body. What do I need? Okay, I am abundant. I am an abundant being. So you can train your body. You need to be this. So many of us are disconnected from ourselves, from our body and what it's trying to tell us and the information behind it. And it's because we don't want to sit with what's happening in the present moment, because you have to feel deep anxiety, that deep fear, so that you can alchemize it. Okay, again, you're living in this dualistic system. So you are here to kind of feel the full range of human emotion and that contrast. And you'll notice one thing, it will either come from a place of fear or a place of love. And oftentimes it comes from that place of fear. Even if it's like judgment that you've been feeling over the last 24 hours, or frustration, it usually comes from a place of fear. Frustration will then have a sublayer of emotion with anger, and anger will be fear. Okay, you'll always notice that within yourself, but you have to sit with yourself. You know, this is why Mo said earlier, the work, the hero's journey, it's not for, you know, like the faint of heart. Like if you think it's like a light and love kind of thing, then it you know, it's, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. But those who are ready to kind of step into that next phase of getting to know yourself and, you know, honoring the soul's journey and, you know, really embracing the full range of the human experience and unlocking the incredible potential of the human, this is a beautiful tool that you can work with. And
and it boils down to recalibrating the central nervous system back into its original and natural state. And every time you get these emotional signals that shoot off and fire these triggers, you get a chance to breathe all is well energy into your system. And the more and more you do that, you can recalibrate your central nervous system to a point where it's like the triggers would over time lose its grip. But
yeah, you can tend to them. Like you can tend
never
to
penalize.
Yeah.
Exactly. So don't penalize yourself for being triggered, and 100% don't penalize the other person for triggering you. Just use it
Mm,
as an opportunity to recalibrate your central nervous system and speak
exactly.
to yourselves. You have to. You got to speak to yourself. You got. This is all about being able to know thyself and being able to speak to yourself. It's like, oh, all is well. It's all is well. And it's the more and more you conjure that type of energy, the easier it does become to like deal with anxiety and stuff like that. Because anxiety is always, like you said, it's just something showing you where something is off, right? And the reasons why we have anxiety, it tends back to, it always comes back to something else placed on us. It's just that's the
Mm,
game, and that's where forgiveness is very important. That's why shadow work is very important. And what you said is sitting with these things. Sometimes I sit with stuff the whole day. I'm like, damn. It's like, and I have to remind myself that it's okay if I put it like this. That's a form of wealth and abundance. The fact that I can sit with something and have the time and space to
mm.
actually figure out what's going on with it, address it, look at it, and then come out better. I love that, you know what I'm saying? Because I get a chance to get better in that moment. And so it's giving me a chance to grow and expand. But you can't be afraid to sit with these things, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Because the
That's
key is to get back to our natural ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful how you said it because it's almost like you're inviting an exploration of the self. Like, get curious about the self. Get curious and think about
Hmm.
yourself as an investigator. Where did that anxiety come from? Because you can go down.
Yeah.
I go every day into, and I know Mo does as well, going into hypnosis, and you can go all the way back to the mother's womb, and you can actually feel the
Mm.
anxiety of the mother as well, and where that stemmed from.
Uh,
It doesn't
yeah.
even start with you. Like, it dates back generations, so that you'll see this as an
Yeah.
ancestral thing. Like, you can get to know your bloodline through going within. It's a trip to inner space, and
Yeah.
you'll see everything is connected to everything else. So,
Everything. And once again, it goes back to that's the compassion, realizing that we
mm,
throw around this phrase chosen all the time, and I try to stay away from that stuff now. But technically, you are the chosen one for your bloodline in order to do this work to actually help
and it's because you
neutralize
chose yourself.
it, huh?
It's because you chose
Because
yourself. Like, you
yeah, and
chose yourself
you
while you're also your ancestors. It's all interconnected.
right, you get a chance to neutralize some of these let's just say unnatural states of being, and
Mm,
ultimately
it's
with the main
invited
goal of yeah, just getting back to your natural state, and that's what I work on every day, just getting back to my natural state of being, and realizing that a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the triggers they came from unnatural mind frames and unnatural behaviors and stuff like that. So it's all about getting back to nature.
Mhm. Uh, Stephanie said triggers come from fears, never from love. What are you attached to? Yeah,
Hmm. Absolutely.
100%. Sometimes we're attached
That's,
to uh, even this false sense of comfort and safety.
yeah, yeah.
Anything
I
else?
deal with that now. I deal with that now, and I feel like a lot of
And
my life
I loved
is
how you No, sorry, you were talking about regulating the nervous system. That's what meditation does.
Mhm.
It brings you from autonomic, like you'll literally go into fight or flight in meditation when those emotions come up, and then you'll feel yourself shifting into parasympathetic. Like, you'll literally feel the
Yeah,
calming, the regulating, the healing energy that takes place and the integration that happens at the end of the meditation. Like, you always come out at the end way better than often when we've come in, especially if we haven't done it
definitely.
for a while, we're coming back to it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, Mo, how are you
Can't sleep
doing?
on
Because I know
breath
it's
work either.
yeah, you said something else as well. How are you doing? Because it's late on your end.
Yeah, I'm cooling. About to get some food soon. It's 12:15 a.m. and we rolling. We
Yeah.
rolling.
um,
This is
Steve
a good
said
build though.
so.
It's a great build.
Yeah, let me know. Well, I mean, we can do another one anyway in the future.
Of
If you
course.
so how then would you describe your core being as, and want, if anything, is desired by yourself? What do you mean, Steve? How then would you describe your core being as, and if anything is desired by yourself? I think he might be talking about like how can you distinguish the desires of the ego versus the soul.
Mm, man, that's a great question, bro. But if I had to go back to my core being, it would 100% be like just omnipresent.
Yeah.
Omnipresent, just all, just all of all, and filtered through this character that I chose as Maurice to play out these roles and different skill sets and whatnot, and filtering the passions of the many things that I enjoy doing, in order for me to grow and expand my life. But uh and that's how Source chose to experience itself through this vessel.
Hmm. Yeah, I see that as like your core essence, like the core of your being is it's your innate essence of infinite potential of source experiencing itself through these different forms as a way to know itself, subjectively. Otherwise, there was only the one
Mm,
unified field of consciousness of literally just
yeah,
of of like everything and nothing simultaneously. So it split
yeah,
itself into dualistic forces that then made all these different kind of subdivisions to know itself. And your
yeah,
true self originates from that wisdom, that one unified field of consciousness. And the thing that I was seeing with it was the difference that you get when it comes to the ego is okay, what is the character that you're playing? Because you're or what character is the soul experiencing itself through? What is the ego that allows
yeah,
the soul to take on this physical vessel and use it as a tool to navigate this terrestrial plane? But that's something that we're borrowing
right,
temporarily, with the timeless consciousness, not the physical vessel itself. So when we
right,
remember ourselves as more infinite than just this finite meat costume that we're wearing, then we'll be able
yeah,
to see what feels like it's driven from a soul place, from that heart space or interconnectedness to all things in this essence of play. And any kind of form of like attachment or expectations that we have in this realm, any kind of fears or limitations that we take on from this system as well, it's part of something that belongs to the ego. And that brings me back to something that you said earlier, Mo, where you were talking about kind of like quieting the ego when it comes to anxiety. You'll get to a place where you begin to observe that voice and you can tend to it, literally like a wounded octave of yourself, like a wounded inner child. You can hear when the
yeah.
ego is kind of like screaming and maybe wants to control something externally, and you just observe it. You're holding space for it and these different kind of dualistic aspects that coexist within you. Though those are the light and the
Hmm.
dark, shadow integration. So get to know your ego and
That's real.
become friends with it. So what's up, homie? What do you need? What do you need in this moment? Do you feel
Yeah,
unsafe? Bring you safety. It's like, and you do that all within. It's like an internal conversation that can happen. Yeah.
yeah. We integrate the ego. The ego must ascend as well at this point.
Mm.
This is the 9 year, this is the completion year. So the ego got to get on board. But to get the ego on board is don't treat it as an enemy. You know what I'm saying? It's just doing what it knows to do. So it's just
Hmm.
realizing it and recognizing where the ego needs to be kept in its place.
Yeah. Exactly. Um. Okay, guys. Someone said, "Is that why people lie?" And the soul is saying something else because they want to. Um. Jamie said, "Is that why people lie and the soul is saying something else because they want to imagine instead of saying the truth
Hmm.
and say something else?" I think
I'm
it's
not
just
sure about
about,
that.
I don't know, like is that why people lie and the soul, maybe they're I mean, I think if people lie, then maybe they are lying to themselves. Um maybe I think maybe he's talking about lack of like accountability in regards to what is driving
Oh,
you. Like maybe if it,
right, right,
even if it's interesting because the ego can distort things based upon belief systems. So because I'm seeing like a theme about materialism. So if there's like a theme around materialism and someone's like, okay, I want this great power, I want this success, like I want a lot of money and this accumulation of wealth, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You are an abundant being. Abundance is your
Yeah,
birthright. You should have access to that.
for sure.
So yeah, what is that? Because money is energy, and that energy is something that you can invest into experiences the soul gets to have in order for it to play, create, and have, all the kind of materials or equipment that it needs to be able to do something in this realm, to be able to pursue some type of goal. We need tangible things in order for that to happen. It's not a bad thing, but there could be a hidden ego, fear, or driven factor that the human has not yet considered around. Maybe there's an illusion of a safety or security that's found upon the reliance of external things. Maybe it's because of how they're going to be perceived, and they don't even realize that's a hidden driving force or intention. So maybe it's like, I
Yeah.
want status, money, and power because then I'm going to be seen as someone that is, um, on top of the world, or it really. I'm sure you know what I'm saying, but those things can kind of be distorted. So it's just kind of confronting and being real with
Yeah.
yourself. Like, you have to be honest
Yeah,
and
that's
vulnerable.
real. That's be honest about what you like. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with being. I don't think there's a spiritual enlightenment or what they may call. Some people, I don't know what happened with certain spirituality where they try to make it seem like your desires or the things that you truly want in this world somehow makes you any unenlightened. Nah, if
Mhm.
be straight up about what you like in this reality. Be clear about it, and
Yeah,
be
you're
okay
having
with
a
the
physical
idea of having it.
experience. Yeah. I think there can
Yeah,
be a
there's
sense of
nothing wrong with
shame
that.
around. Yeah, and don't undersell yourself, don't undervalue yourself, because source loves you, right? Right now in
Yeah.
this age, we are utilizing actually, currency as a form of trade. And again,
Hmm.
currency is energy. So that's why I say in
Yeah.
all forms of abundance. Abundance can come in many, many forms. When you're an abundant being, that
Fact.
can come through networks, it can come through contacts, opportunities. It doesn't even have to be money. It can be something that draws in more abundant experiences. It creates more of a fertile existence for you to play and create in. So whatever it is that you want to
Right.
call it, and there shouldn't be any kind of sense of, shame or disconnection, because again, you're having a physical experience. You are abundant a being. This means that it
Right.
translates into physical things, whether that's a hand that's being offered to you, whether it's an opportunity that you draw in. It's whatever you want it to be, whatever you make it to be. So yeah, it's that's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Abundance comes in all forms, and then when you think about, if we just talk about money in general, like it is the relationship that leads to and that's the abundance. You meet the right person, that might lead you to the right person, that might lead you to the right person. So once again, we can't
Hmm.
abandon the process of unfolding. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't always just the money plopping up on your doorstep. The the actual process of how it came about. What makes it dope? You end up meeting a cool person. You end up going, you know, into a certain environment that you never would have been in if you hadn't have just put it like this: keeping your mind open, mind and heart open for all forms of abundance that can lead to the money. Because money, the physical currency itself, is the last expression of prosperity anyway. It's the last thing that typically comes. You know what I mean? In its purest form, is liquid gold, is life, it's everything that makes up this whole entire reality. So when it's
Hmm.
actually filtered down to dollars and cents, I mean, that's kind of like the last form of it. You know what I'm saying? But it was always your skills. It was always your abilities. It was always your communication skills. It was always your charisma. It was always your humor. It was always these real wealth components that led you to the finances in the first place. We get too
Hmm.
much credit to the money, but it's like it was always your ability to generate circumstances
Yeah,
that lead you to making more money.
generate is such a huge word, because again, you can generate abundance in this realm through something that you're abundant within. Like again, if you're creating from that place of love, you're literally streaming from this infinite source of play and creation, and that streamlines into your experience. That's then projected into your experience.
Yep.
This is a good question to probably end on. Notice Mine 88 said, "Would love to know how you both came into your awakening."
Mm, how did I come to? I just say this. I remember being in high school, just thinking that things became so watered down. I just remember always telling my cousin, I'm like, yo, this can't be life, bro. I'm
Yeah.
like 15, 16 years old then. I'm like, there's gotta be more to this. So I just think my curiosity always had me just consistently searching for more. I'm just like, nah, this can't be it. There's no way this is all we got to this life thing. And that
Mm.
just led me on this path, just to continue to just curiosity, right? I would say curiosity led me into a certain great deal of my awakening for sure.
Mm.
Wanting to know. It ain't about how much you know, it's about your desire to want to know.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, there was just a saying when you said curiosity. It reminds me of I think it was an original Latin saying where it was like, you know how they say curiosity kills the cat,
Yeah.
kills the cat, but they only said the one half. But there was like another half of it. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Um, I can't remember, but it was like it leads to something else. There's something around it always leads to something else, but it's not the end of the cat. It's like the cat has more than 9 lives. It talks about
Hmm.
like your eternal essence and the soul's explorative nature. When it comes to my awakening, it's funny because I'm like Mo, like we both spoke about this where we were kind of looking up around us because we both came into this as just old souls having many lifetimes. And again, Mo is a 33, like he's already, yeah, he's already on it. And you kind of just look around and you begin to question your reality. I think we were both very sensitive from a young age in regards to things energy wise and dreams and just being very attuned to other realms, but not really knowing what it was or how to navigate it. And it's funny because when I think about my point of awakening, it always changes because I'm like, oh, it started then. But then I backtrack my life and I'm like, oh, it actually started then. And then it started then. So I
Yeah.
did a video reading around Karnak around my day of like awakening, kind of awakening, where it's the first day that I actually saw the Akashic records, which literally was the interconnected database that stores the living memory of all organisms. So I saw all possible timelines of my life in the quantum field, including ancestral timelines. And I was tuning into something far greater than me than I was able to draw information on, and it changed the way that I felt about my journey on Earth because there's intercommunication that happens between plasma and also your plasma origins, which it circulates around the cell. So it's something that resonates on a soul level when it comes to how you relate to your journey on Earth emotionally. So that was like a
Yeah.
huge awakening for me that happened in 2022. But then I think about when I was a teenager, even like a decade before that, and I was going to Egypt and I wanted to live there as a teenager. I had gone there for many times growing up, and I was always into stargazing, and I was very much into the stars and connecting with the planets. And I remember I was going quad biking and I saw this man who was kind of leading the group, and he had his laser in the sky and he was telling the story about the constellations and the stars. And I remember just being in awe of him and in admiration and this deep connectedness where I was like, okay, wouldn't that be a cool job? I would love to be able to do something like that. I didn't have any like limitations or belief systems that were kind of distorting this. I just felt that's something that I want to do one day. And after that I started studying like astrology and all these other divination arts and everything, and I just was being led on that path before I even knew it. And then you can backtrack and
Yeah.
backdate it even before where I started studying dreams as like a child. So there's always this incremental cycle that you see in a linear fashion, but everything led into everything else, and it was all
Yeah.
in divine alignment. It was like it happened exactly how it was supposed to happen when it happened. And that's the beauty of not interrupting the soul's process and just respecting that every sovereign organism of consciousness is literally in its own unique cycle of evolution, stages of evolution that it moves through.
That's real. That's super real.
Yeah,
And it's funny when
I'm
you go
sure
back and like pinpoint those when you time stamp those moments, it actually makes you feel it makes me feel better. Like, oh damn, I kind of always been into this,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, levels of this curiosity. So it's like I really don't remember not being interested in spirituality. I
Yeah,
feel like I was
same.
always into it. You
Consciousness
know what I'm saying?
forever expanding. It's like when you stop learning, then your soul starts. It's not that it ever becomes stagnant, but it just it's a journey that you're continuously learning on. The more that you learn, the more that you know that you have to learn. When you know nothing,
Yeah.
you know everything, right? When you go to the places where there's nothing, because
Mm,
that's where everything is. So
yeah.
it's a continuous
That's the
journey. It's
void.
never
Shit. My man talked about the void earlier. That's the void. Like when you come into that state
yeah,
of not knowing, it's like you really don't know nothing, but you do know everything
yeah,
because you are omnipresent. But you acting like you don't know everything for the sole purpose of expansion. It's shit
mm,
crazy.
literally. And
There
when we think we know everything, that's the ego. You'll be very humbled
we
if
go.
you when you have a near-death
Yeah,
experience or an IDE as well. You will be humbled very quickly. And sometimes life will humble us. It's like you think that you knew everything, and you'll quickly learn that we know nothing at all.
that's
Really.
facts.
Yeah.
That is facts.
Yeah, those moments are so altering. Yes, they were 100%. It was definitely it's those there's power in admitting you know nothing. 100%.
Hmm. It's okay.
100.
There's no like. It's funny though when you think about it like that. It ain't like there's not a scoring system or a point system based on you feeling like you just the most wisest, enlightened person in the world. It's like it's okay not to know, and it's okay.
Yeah,
Like and we were talking about it earlier about arguing with people. It's like, all right, you right, you got it.
yeah. Really need
Well,
to
yeah,
know what the
just
answer is.
uh,
A scapegoat said, "To know is to know we know nothing, but the synchronicities confirm that we do 100%." Steve Love said, "Does Mo have a channel? If so, channel name, please." Yes, Mo. You'll find it also in the description box of this video. You should see some links
mhm.
to his channel. But Mo, do you want to tell people what you're up to, how to find you or get in contact with you?
Yeah. Right now, Instagram 𝓲𝓪𝓬𝓮 𝓲𝓪𝓬𝓪, just like my name on her. You can follow me on that's my main page, and you can hit me up on there. That's cool. And my YouTube channel, it's called 𝓲𝓪𝓬𝓪 Show, 𝓲𝓪𝓬𝓪 Show. That's on YouTube. So I got a plethora of things on there. It's like music, skits, videos, pods. Just go check it out. And I've been growing that for the past couple of years or so, and it's slowly growing, but I love it because it shows a lot of my creative side and everything that I enjoy doing, especially when it comes to like artwork and stuff and just digital stuff, man. But yeah, 𝓲𝓪𝓬𝓪 on Instagram is cool. And right now I'm out in Cambodia. I live in Phnom Penh, the capital city. I'm actually out here playing ball, teaching basketball, getting involved with some musical things out this way, and fashion, of course, and just providing the greatest service that I can daily by just being myself. You feel me?
Thank you, Steve. See, Steve said, "Thank you. I will stop today." So, Sarah says you need to eat. Sarah says that you need to eat.
I'm about to go cook for sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
enjoy.
sir.
I know that
I appreciate it.
you're having your 12th house, 6th house aspects. So you're cooking, you're performing alchemy as you cook, seeing the
Yeah,
food
for sure.
infused with gold and applying the practical things into the spiritual into the practical.
Hmm.
All right, Mo, thank you so much for this co-creation. This was beautiful.
Oh, for sure. We definitely got to build again for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
We got to
definitely. We'll do this
get
again
these
very
in
soon.
because yeah, it's,
You
it's
guys,
really therapeutic for me, and hopefully that it can shed some light for other people and help them on their journey as well. I mean,
yeah,
that's what we're here to do, to help each other.
100%. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who participated in the live. Also for your super chats, we're deeply appreciated. And yeah, we'll speak to you very soon. We'll let you know when we're next hopping on live. Also, let me know in the comments down below if you guys would prefer. Today I had to stream it last minute because the first one didn't work. if you prefer it in a vertical context or a landscape context for next time as well, because I think this time you've done it vertical. But yeah, thank you guys so much. We hope to see you very soon. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, do consider subscribing to Mo and I's channel. And yeah, we'll speak to you very soon. Until next time. Bye.
Appreciate it. Y'all be easy.